The main character is rushing somewhere forward. She tries not to be late, not listening to the servant behind her. The redhead approaches the door and smiles, asking the guards to let her in nicely. She doesn't have much time. Bursting into the office, a girl named Melody Corbella asks why she wasn't invited. The heroine is examined by three princes, but Demos was the first to start shouting. His sister was not allowed to attend the council. The boy has been doing the same thing all year. He could have come up with something new because it's not interesting at all. If brothers can do anything, then Melody can too. She thinks they're pretty similar. His Majesty immediately becomes angry with his son when he speaks like this, but it seems that only he himself does not understand it. Having decided not to give in, the beauty calmly asks if she can sit down and moves forward. Deimos is truly spoiled. It's a shame, of course, that we have to do this to him. The little girl says that she saw a prince who was going for a walk, and there was a yellow circle on his carriage. Urbash looks menacingly at his son. It seems he has started gambling again. And this is annoying. His Majesty allows his daughter to sit down next to him. She nods, promising that she will be as quiet as possible. The kingdom of Arsen is developing by leaps and bounds, as demonstrated by the recent war on the eastern borders between them and Corbella. There are the Aebub Mountains there, separating the countries like a wall. But maniac, nothing serious happened. Arsen arranged a political wedding with Xerox. They are now allies. If they continue to tolerate this, the consequences will be terrible. The advisor believes that Corbella's engagement would not hurt, and it is worth considering the offer from the Azen Empire. The beauty has worked hard all year, and just for this moment, her eyes sparkle with joy. Melody raises her hand, offering herself as a candidate for the engagement, which she feels is suitable. No one is sure that the little girl knows the meaning of this deal, since she waves so furiously, as if she wants to get candy. Deimos has no intention of sending the madwoman to her future allies, but she starts screaming again, not understanding why she is considered one. The beauty really wants to marry a foreigner, if not from the Azen Empire, then from the Vladimir Kingdom. The duo starts a real squabble, not noticing how Urbash barely holds back the flow of his anger. Jumping up, the brunette orders them to shut up right now. Because of them, the meeting of the imperial family has turned into a circus. Before the lady gets into trouble, she decides to leave immediately after the order. Duke Weddle, sitting next to him, remains calm even now, which cannot help but boggle the mind. Running out of the room, Melody rejoices at her success. She needs to tell Claire about everything as soon as possible. You can thank Demos for playing his part. No one would dare call the lady crazy in front of their father. The lady has done so much during the whole year that now no one will marry her, even on purpose. The redhead does not want to be sold to another country at any cost. She wants to get her happiness. The baby stretches. She should learn to get home before dark to avoid getting into trouble. The captain of the guard clearly realized something. They even increased the patrol on the walls, and this is a little disappointing. Caesar works very hard, and all because he is the perfect servant of the people who makes everything much better. It would be great to have everyone together for dinner, if the imperial family were friendly. Alas, this will never happen. Dinners happen very rarely, but to the point every time going there is even a little uncomfortable. You want to run away somewhere. The girl can't leave, because she already had a fight with her brother this morning, and if she does something wrong, even one more time, everything will be much worse. The lady says goodbye, promising that she will return. Claire waves. She feels sorry for the lady. She even had to cut her hair to get into her character better. Melody is determined to become the crazy flower of the empire, so the first thing she did was cut her hair and then put on pants instead of a dress. Having lost her femininity, the redhead found the freedom she was looking for, and can now often be seen lying in the grass. A beauty can suddenly run to the estate, so even the servants try their best to ignore her. The best thing is, the pants they help give freedom of movement, making you feel confident. It's time to reap the fruits of the labors that have been invested. Too much, listening to Deimos is not a problem given the goal at hand. The lady calmly follows forward and freezes, noticing the guards. Kaiser is the captain of the detachment, which obeys his majesty. Weddle is a tall young man with short blonde hair. Melody immediately noticed his wonderful face. There were rumors that Princess Daisy fell in love with him at first sight. I feel sorry for my sister, because this man is only suitable for the main character. She decided so herself a long time ago. Noticing the princess, one of the knights tells the captain about the meeting, where the daughter infuriated the emperor and everyone around. No one pays attention to the fact that Corbella hears everything. She takes the situation into her own hands and greets the assembled. The blonde bows in response, saying his wonderful name, which is already known, but this man is probably the best option. The little girl nods and smiles. She is extremely pleased to meet him. She would be happy to shake his hand. For now, it's worth stopping at a simple greeting, because Corbella hopes that they will see each other at least once more. The same friend of Kaiser, as soon as Melody moved away, begins to whisper something about a disease that provokes such terrible behavior. Unable to bear it any longer, the lady turns around screaming that she is not sick, and even calls Robert's name, who begins to worry. Corbella smiles, saying that this time she will forgive everything, and then says goodbye. She can't help but attract attention with her cute expression. In the hall, the beauty gazes at the new statue, but the butler politely reminds her that it has been expected for a long time. Every time Melody feels ashamed when she behaves inappropriately, she will have to change after the mission is completed. Empress Roach Valhalla, Corbella, is already sitting in the room talking to her son about what happened at the recent meeting. Deimos is also skeptical in his opinion. The girl can't do anything right at all. His Majesty has two empresses, Roche and Matilda, who were chosen a long time ago, and also 7 children. Empress Matilda gave birth to Crown Prince Nigel and Princess Rose, the only 2. Roche in turn gave birth to Deimos and Kaizen, as well as princesses Daisy and Lily. 3 years ago, the eldest Lilia left the palace for a political marriage, and it seemed that there were no problems in the family except for one minor obstacle. Melody smiles as she sits down. No one could eat without her, so it was time for her meal. She was incredibly hungry. The redhead first turns to Daisy, saying that she is beautiful as always, and also to Lily. It comes to Matilda Bovin, who, like the Emperor, shows zero sympathy for this girl. Deimos asks to stop. The little girl has already said hello to everyone. But not only was she late for an important meeting, she decided to ruin everything completely. The meeting in the morning was only for important persons from the palace, and today, the beauty ruined it. Because of her, they even kicked out the prince. Father asks everyone to stop, and unfortunately, this is impossible. Corbella is waiting for Deimos to do something stupid. The brunette jumps up. The girl has no right to show up so brazenly and ruin the Emperor's family dinner. Urbash can't stand it anymore, forcing his son to shut up. Melody must stop behaving like this, otherwise she will be exiled from the palace. While waiting, the little girl asks again about a political marriage, but is ordered to leave the room. The girl will not be forgiven if she mentions this ridiculous idea even once more. She should think about her behavior. Someone like her would never be married off. The redhead can only thank her brother for his shouts. Matilda sends Rose out to dinner, but asks Nigel to stay nearby so they can talk about something. The Aeson Empire has proposed marriage. His Majesty is not going to reject the offer. He wants to marry all his daughters to foreigners, without thinking that he is selling his own children. That kingdom is known as a place where only savages ride wild horses. Bovin understands perfectly well that he will have to give someone away in marriage. No one gives him a choice anyway, even if it sounds a little sad. If we were to choose an option, then Melody herself should in all fairness be first in line. In the Emperor's place, no one would have given away the younger Corbella, because Rose is a whole year older than her. 3 years ago, Lily was married off in exactly the same way that her sister will now be married off. If Melody is not chosen, then yes, everything is clear, because Urbash will give Arson to Rose. The girl returned back to her chambers. She needed some rest, because she didn't have time to have dinner anyway. She was kicked out. Claire made sandwiches for the lady that she would like. The blonde is going to leave the girl, because she is thinking about something. Daisy, like the main character, is 21 years old. This is the best time for marriage. The maid said that His Majesty is not going to give away the youngest, but the lady thinks otherwise. All the princes were named after gods, but if you look at the names of the princesses, many questions arise. The girls, funny enough, were named after flowers, and Music Melody's name doesn't at all match the skills she possesses. It all started with the engagement of the half-sister on the night of departure. She did not stop crying and left the empire with red eyes. The girl understood the point when she said goodbye. Even her extremely influential family was unable to prevent what happened. The next one was supposed to be the youngest. She is part of the family, which again has no choice or influence. If in the future Urbash decides to marry Corbella to a foreigner, no one will stop it, and she will also cry. That day, the beauty decided that since she herself could not prevent the engagement, she would do everything to ensure that no one wanted to marry her off to anyone. 3 years of work. And now the madness has finally borne fruit. It is Rose, who will be sent to the Azan Empire. Even though the girl was able to avoid a political engagement, the wedding will still remain a problem. In such a situation, Melody cannot remain without a husband. The emperor wants to marry her off to some aristocrat. The best fit for the role is the duke's only son, the academy's top graduate, the youngest captain of the guard, and the youngest swordmaster. There are many awards that would make Kaiser Wendell the best man in the empire. The young man has every chance to become the mistress's husband. She is already chosen and decided everything on her own. Nigel has to keep an eye on Roach and her plans, and Daisy and Kaysen have no plans for a wedding. If the lady had been sent to Azan, Rose would have become Caesar's wife. But that will not happen now. The captain came to the castle, and of course his friend asked if he was going to visit the queen and marry the princess. The choice is between Rose and Daisy. It is clear that Melody will not even be taken into account. It's time for Roble to learn to keep his mouth shut, especially when they are in the palace. The young man promises that he strictly followed the order and says that everything is fine. At the northern gate, there is only the palace of Princess Melody. There is no point in strengthening the wall's defense there. The guards noticed that at night, someone was running away from the city and returning back. They need to follow up. Kaiser sensed traces of the flow, and if this is indeed the case, Robel promises to strengthen the patrol's tracks. The girl rises up in a hood. They were about to greet her, but the servant realized that this was their regular customer. The lady finally arrived at the right place. She knocked carefully and entered the room. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and the lady barely made it there. Smiling, she asks how her uncle is doing. The man nods. Everything is fine, and as he noticed, the beauty is beginning to understand her mother more and more. My hand reaches for the cookies. Recently, the children brought a lot of them from the mountain, so I can take some with me to the castle. The redhead was already happy, but then she refused, because recently the wall began to be guarded much better. The girl suggests getting straight to the point, so as not to be even more sad. She succeeded. Rose is sent to Azanin. The niece said that she would do all sorts of crazy things. But who could have thought that everything would turn out exactly like this? There is nothing new in the kingdom of Arson and Xerox, yet they behave more or less the same as usual. The man is still a little worried, even though he heard that the girl will not be sent anywhere. To be more precise, no one wants anything anymore, because Corbella expects nothing from the princess herself. What the young man wants to understand is why the red-haired woman needs information about other kingdoms, which she spends her mother's inheritance on. The answer is quite simple. All for the sake of Peace Empire and the greatness of the family that was chosen. The heroine wishes for the country, and in particular her family, to live happily without any problems or sorrows. It seems that the uncle does not believe it at all, but it does not matter at all. The lady speaks quite seriously, not excluding anything. Before Melody left the waiting room, the hero again promises that he will really try to help in any way he can. You have to believe that the woman is not going to give up important resources. There is a drop of sadness in the guy's eyes, and his sister is increasingly reflected in this girl. Jabril once told Gerald something similar, that she would do anything to protect their family. The emperor married a blonde and paid off all the family's debts. It was quite a profitable deal. The Abub clan became free only thanks to the sacrifice of the leader Gerald had to teach Melody love for the country and protect her. The lady is just as smart, but the man is worried that Melody might get into trouble during these escapes. The princess herself did not yet suspect what exactly awaited her, and this is actually the most terrible thing. There are now twice as many guards on the wall. The redhead stands below, figuring out how to get back. The heroine caught the changing of the guard, the wind picked up, and she couldn't hear what was happening above, so she decided that she should slip onto the wall. Jumping out there, the girl comes face to face with Robel Rucci, who reacts instantly. It is easy to understand that the knight attacks with the intent to kill, and this is actually very scary. The lady is going to hide and run away to the palace. The lady realizes that she has almost reached her goal and can breathe a sigh of relief, but then someone else appears from behind. Almost before she can raise her sword, the heroine freezes because she sees Kaiser in front of her. Now it is not clear how to run and how to avoid unnecessary problems, which in this sense only interfere. Robel opened himself up so that the lady could even cut his throat, but an ally warned him. The body was exposed to the blow by accident, so now there is blood everywhere. The girl has no choice but to use the flows. The heroine has escaped, she can barely move, but there is no time, everything has stopped for only a minute. The beauty almost fainted, but Claire found her in time and carried her to the palace to rest a little. The problem now is not the flow, but that there is something else. The wounds will heal very soon, it is worth resting. Only now did the maid realize that the lady had left traces of blood, and she quickly ran outside. Robel woke up and realized that it was a flow. This is the ability to use the inner strength of a person and the forces of nature. The brunette doesn't understand what kind of power it was. The man simply evaporated while they were frozen in time. That character could have killed the knight, but for some reason stopped. At the last moment, the servant promises to report everything to the palace. It's too late, but the boy wounded a man, so we'll have to try to follow the tracks. The blonde quickly found one of the columns with blood on the ground. Apparently, the hero fainted there, but something doesn't add up, because this is Melody's palace. The tracks end near the entrance. Someone from the castle is in cahoots with the attacker. Kaiser will personally talk to His Majesty. Claire was late cleaning up her tracks, so let's just hope they don't find anything. Caesar engaged in battle with the intruder, who had entered the city through the northern wall. For now he was lost, but he could not get far as he was wounded. Urbash is visibly worried, asking how serious it is, not understanding what is wrong. The knight continues the answer, saying that the man was bleeding and was also a flow user. The brunette orders the servants to leave the office, asking only the captain himself to stay. In the silence of the room, the emperor calmly orders the investigation to be stopped. His Majesty did not even explain the reason, he simply ordered everything to be closed, since he probably knew the offender, and was even worried about him. Even if only for a moment, the blonde saw clearly sparkling blue eyes. The servants began discussing, from the very morning, that the mistress had hurt herself somewhere, and that Claire looked tired. Vidal decided not to delay, and asked to notify the princess that he had arrived for negotiations. The maid asks for forgiveness in advance. The lady is unwell, so the meeting will not take place. Nodding, Kaiser agrees that everything should be postponed until the near future. Ultimately, forcing Melody to meet if she is sick will not work. You have to accept it. Vidal came for the second time. The heroine feels lousy because she refused the captain twice. The young man will still come again, even if he refuses. Maybe it's better to meet, since his condition is already better. There is really no point in remaining silent. Agreeing, Corbella asks to choose a dress that will not harm her. The trousers will be put aside. The best man of the empire should be greeted in an outfit worthy of him. And the wound has not yet healed, it should be covered. The blonde waits, but freezes, when he sees the redhead in a beautiful dress that is completely unsuitable for her status. Be that as it may, the hero does not understand whether the maiden always had such a calm gait. You can immediately notice that the person keeps his back straight and does not make any sudden movements. Sitting down, the heroine tries not to be nervous. Now the future groom is examining her, as if he suspected something. The princess sits down on a chair and immediately freezes, pain filling every cell of her body. Without a hint of embarrassment, the blonde asks if everything is okay. The lady doesn't look too good. The first question, of course, is about the northern wall. Smiling, the beauty says that she hasn't been there for a long time. As it turned out, the lady didn't even see anyone suspicious and doesn't understand whether anything happened at all. Blue eyes drill a hole into Corbella. She doesn't understand how she should behave in this situation. Even if the hero is sure that the criminal is sitting in front of him, he cannot take off her dress to see the wound as further evidence. Still, there is gratitude for the answers to the rude questions for the lady. This is not a problem, and she nods. The lady thought that everything would go well. Now she is again cursing Robel Rucci, who did this to her. Claire dropped by at the perfect moment to find out how the meeting with the girl's future husband went. I can't believe that the guy considers the heroine a criminal. At this rate, they won't get married. The only right move is to seduce the young man. Turning to unbutton her dress, the girl asks if the palace is calm and if she is suspected of any violations. Keeping her mouth shut is a maid's job, so she's just helping and asking him to be as careful as possible. The blonde rummages in her pocket to get an order from there. The emperor told his daughter to rest at home and eat, sleep more. While Melody was recovering, His Majesty issued a decree of political engagement Rose will be officially sent to Azin. The date of the princess's departure was chosen quite quickly, with only 2 days left before her departure. The lady dresses up, and the maid who helps her exclaims with joy, because something like this has not happened for quite a long time. My father gave me the dress, so the decision to wear it was quick. It felt like it was falling off, but everything could be fixed. Pearls from the emperor are ideal for a hairstyle. A blonde has the right to do what she wants, as long as it is beautiful. To begin with, the heroine is going to have a little snack. With her beautiful appearance, full of femininity, she makes everyone around her freeze in horror. All around there are empty smiles and people who are ready to peck each other for the sake of power. Duchess Lan Luxel, Whittle grimaces. There was a mood for a new film, but it was obviously not destined to share the evening with these uninteresting rich people. Everyone around is whispering about Melody, and everyone has different thoughts that change under the influence of society. The heroine doesn't care about this meeting, just like the Duchess. She understands that there is no point in it. The moment has come when the imperial family follows forward one after another. They go without Corbella the Younger. The lady never attended such meetings. She was never even interested, although she had the right. Blue-Eye doesn't want to listen to things that she doesn't like at all, so she always sat in the castle. Something similar happened when Jabril was alive. They never showed up at these kinds of events. The heroine decides to forget about the sad things. On a good day, it's better to think about the positive. And besides, she needs to prepare. Melody is thinking about wanting her uncle's cookies, but is interrupted by her father's voice, calling his daughter, asking where she is, and asking her to come over. This isn't the first time the girl has dressed up like this. It's just that with all the madness she's been going on for the last year, everyone has forgotten what she was like before. Corbella moves closer, trying not to look nervous as Her Highness is introduced to Duke Videl and his family. It's unclear what Urbash has in mind, but it's best to play along, so Melody bows her head, greeting the new people. It's still the height of the event, but the heroine has finally managed to escape thanks to Azin's delegation. The holidays were not interesting at all. Those gathered always looked not only at her, but also at Jabril. Virgo is close to starting to cry, but she calms herself down. Today, they need to celebrate the wedding in peace. The security on the walls is weaker because of the holiday. This is immediately noticeable. Kaiser is now with everyone in the palace. It's time to go get some cookies, but the lady doesn't know that the man has gone outside. The intruder has not appeared for a month, which coincides with Miss Melody's illness, and he does not often climb the wall. There were few guards today, the perfect moment, and the blonde was right. A figure in a cloak jumped in front of him. Jumping off the wall with the ease of a snowflake, the guy ran away. If the captain went through the door, he would never make it in time. Heading quickly after the man, the hero hopes that this time he won't miss him. Uncle is passing the cookies. It's going to rain soon, so we should go to the palace. The walls are wet, you can't climb them. There are a lot of people around, so the girl accidentally bumps into someone. A few hours before the incident, the celebration in honor of the political marriage was in full swing. Princess Daisy Corbella, blushing, asks lightly if the man likes opera. Videl watched for a long time, and then saw that Melody was leaving. He cut off the conversation with his interlocutor. Mom told the girl to try to establish contact, but the captain wanted to leave. The redhead freezes with her mouth open. She doesn't understand what the hero is doing in this place and why he's standing nearby. A man with blue eyes appeared behind her. He held out his sword, ordering her to move away from the princess. The woman asks to put down the weapon in front of Gerald, is her friend, who seemed too rude to him. It's better not to attract unnecessary attention. Everyone around is already looking at the assembled trio. Smiling, the little girl suggests to Sir Videl that they talk somewhere else. This option seems the best. It's better to say that the woman is too upset she doesn't know how she was recognized in her cape and other clothes. The young man spoke to Daisy in different clothes. His face changing, the lady was happy about such an unexpected meeting. Trying to justify herself, the heroine assures that she left the party early to see how ordinary people live. Lowering his voice, the hero breaks any chances, because he saw the beauty jump off the wall. The heroine can pretend to be drunk or pretend to be crazy, but she can't because he is her future husband, making a sweet face. The red-haired girl asks if Sir will tell anyone else. All the lady asks is to keep a secret. The blonde nods. He will ask a few questions to which he asks for answers. The crazy flower has a serious demeanor. Not at all like the rumors it was the lady who was caught on that wall a month ago. The next question is related to the flow, as it is obvious that the main character hides that she has it. Of course, all for the reason that life belongs to the beauty, and she herself will decide what to say to whom. Melody is considered the weakest and most insignificant person in the palace, and it is clear to everyone what will happen when the truth is revealed. The fate of a pawn is what awaits Corbella, because she will simply be used by anyone who is lucky. Disrupting the meeting and cutting off her hair is part of the plan. The girl does not want to end up in political exile in another country. For some reason, the Duke heard that the beauty most of all wanted to marry a foreigner. The redhead bursts into laughter. That performance was a way to effectively sow chaos at the meeting. If the young man is so interested in the details, he can always ask his father who was there. The last question is about the mercenary guild. As it turned out, the girl's mother had connections there. Sir must have remembered last year's war with arson, or rather their surprise attack. Then someone managed to warn about the attack, so the damage was less. The Empire would have suffered greater losses without this information. It was the people from the guild who provided the help. They are hiding in those parts and helping the army by collecting any information about the borders and neighboring countries. If there were no mercenaries near those places, then everything would really be much worse. The heroine even found a reason why she does all this. It is for the sake of the bright future of the country. As a citizen of the Corbellan Empire, the princess wishes for prosperity and happiness for her homeland. Abruptly changing the subject, the beauty asks how she can atone for her guilt, since she has been a little guilty. The heroine pulls her friend out into the street and stops the raindrops for just a moment, demonstrating her strength. The drops turned into motionless crystals like stars' translucent water pearls. The view is breathtaking, and the promise to show a miracle has come true. Letting go of the Duke's hand, the lady nods when he asks about the skill they used a month ago. The time of departure is limited. The man nods again and asks what happened to the wound, even if he is late by 1 month. The heroine laughs when she is also asked about jumping on walls. On their evening walk, the beauty paid for the drinks. The walls are slippery, and she asks to be taken home. The blonde asks if the girl can climb walls with her bare hands, which is true, by the way, but it would be worth trying. The couple won't be able to get through the main gate, so the only option left is the secret entrance for the servants. It turns out that the main character's secret will also be kept. She really hopes for it. The girl had a wonderful smile, and so the captain himself did not notice how he also smiled slightly. Winter ends and spring comes. Next year, the heroine hopes to become the Duke's wife. Sir is asked if he determines his own life, and he does just like most people. The heroine asks for forgiveness. She decided to marry a man without even asking his opinion. Changing the subject, the girl holds out a cookie to try. It was for this reason that she ran away today. The taste turned out to be excellent, even a little floral if a man wants more. He can always come to the lady. It is impossible not to notice that the girl resembles her mother, Matilda, and Roche are empresses, but the king had only one wife, and that was Jibril. It didn't matter at all, and in fact, it didn't matter at all. She herself saw in him only a ruler, but nothing more. Once the blonde's existence was hidden, she ceased to be a threat to the empire. The empress raises an eyebrow if you think about it. Melody has been full of all sorts of nonsense since she was little. There is no better bride in the empire than Daisy Duke Wendell's family simply will not accept Melody. The princess came into the room for a gift, but she doesn't understand whether it would be rude to give it. One of the princesses should be in the ladies' place, but the heroine does not want to go to the country of Eisen. The redhead finally gathered her strength and went. She asks Rose for forgiveness for being late for tea. Melody doesn't know what to say, but the brunette starts the conversation first, asking how things are and noticing the gift. With sparkling eyes, the princess asks if they would wish her a happy life or a good marriage. Rose looks too sad, or maybe it's her sister's problem, but she's actually happy to be going away. Despite her northern reputation as a beauty, her short hair and clothes, the maiden does not consider her crazy. I just showed interest. I want to know why the heroine goes to the brothers' meetings and behaves so brazenly. It is not clear whether it is really so crazy to wear pants and say whatever you want. Sometimes the beauty wonders why they were named after music and flowers. Rose is glad to be leaving for this very reason, saying that the girls there wear pants and ride horses. Now Melody can sincerely congratulate her sister on her little achievement that she has achieved. The girl turned out to be a disgusting person. She sadly wishes for all the best. 3 years ago, the lady promised herself that if the sisters got married, she would celebrate victory. But now this is impossible. The butler bows his head respectfully as he enters the chambers, and His Majesty deigns to see his daughter. The old man thinks that the girl feels guilty about Rose being sent to Azen instead of her. If the lady didn't want to go so much, she could have said that she felt that no one would even listen to her pleas. Over all these years, the heroine has heard a lot and tried to stay in the Empire, but after a conversation with her sister, she can't take it anymore and starts crying. The baby runs away in tears. Urbash is a successful father. He wants to blame anyone for his mistakes, but not himself. But this is unrealistic. It is clear that the red-haired woman already understood that the emperor has absolutely no influence in the palace. If only the girl had trusted her father, she would have definitely been sold into marriage. Although the man has the power of an emperor in his hands, he can do nothing. It is beyond his control. The daughter no longer counts on her father. It's sad he was not with her mother when she died. The redhead sits in bed sobbing, calling for her mother, talking about how pathetic she is. Claire enters the room. She got up so early because the lady fell asleep early, so it seemed that she would wake up just now. For 3 years, the heroine never thought about anything, and Rose herself smiled even before leaving. Trying to stay positive, the sister encouraged the girl, asking her to stay positive. Melody is not bad. She just had no choice after Jabril surviving in this harsh place became even harder. For now, the blonde can't tell everything. All she can do is hold on and not lose her identity. Although only half the princess is part of the Abub family, her blue eyes are a reflection of a righteous and proud soul. The maiden's mother was the strongest warrior in the entire empire. She belonged to the top league. Emperor Urbash always remembered what she was like, and therefore tried to make it so that he could carry out his plans. The woman knows that parents always love their princesses no matter what. Melody has a responsibility to try to find a better life. She has the right to take what she wants. All green-eyed family members are able to heal both body and spirit. Just looking at Claire makes it easier to breathe. Smiling, the heroine promises that everything will be fine. The blonde asks to let her help the lady fall asleep. The next day, the girl came to breakfast. She thought that people were too cunning. Rose left with a smile on her face, and this immediately made her feel much better. The burden that was on her soul immediately fell away. The maid laughs, because just yesterday the princess was crying, and different from herself, but she only snorts skeptically. It turned out that even today, the captain wanted to meet the princess again. Coming into the room, the lady invites him to sit down at the table and asks what brought the hero here. There is a strange atmosphere in the room. For some reason, the gentleman is silent, as if he is not even going to make any unnecessary movements. The girl hopes that he wants to confess his love to her. Perhaps he liked her when she jumped from the roof. The redhead also suggests that they simply fell in love with her when she paid with earrings. Trying not to blush, the blonde asks to listen to his request, since he has kept her secret from the others. There are rumors that the stream has long disappeared from the lands of the Empire, and when the man finally saw it in person, he simply had no words. He was ready to scream. Perhaps the hero shouldn't ask for too much, but in any case, he wants to ask for something important, at least for him. There is no talk of love, and all hopes are dashed as soon as the captain opens his mouth. All he does is ask for a meeting. If all this is for an investigation, and Videl suspects the beauty of something, then there are no options. She will be forced to refuse. Melody will not hide anything or lie. This is the result of the investigation that was done. The beauty didn't even communicate with the nobles, so she laughs. The blonde even ruined her whole mood. Realizing that now is the right moment to mention something, the hero says that His Majesty ordered him to hush up the investigation. It turned out that the emperor knew who had climbed over the wall. He was clearly worried about the intruder, because he asked about the condition of the wounded man. Claire listens to the story and says that she shouldn't have jumped on the walls to avoid what the beauty has gotten herself into now. Exhaling, the heroine pushes her regrets aside. All she wants to know is whether her family will suffer if someone finds out about the flow. His Majesty destroyed the traces only about Abub, but no one hid the existence of the stream. If you do not mention the family, everything will be fine. In fact, everything is terrible. The lady remembers the peaceful abolition of the Abub clan on the initiative of the emperor. What happened was calm only on paper. In reality, Many of his closest subordinates died in the process, which is why the emperor's power weakened, but such is the power of Jibril's promise. The little girl decides to think positively and pulls her friend out of her thoughts. Many say that the body can solve any problem. Freezing in horror, the girl asks, "Who taught the princess such horror? Something like this should never be used, and one should be extremely careful." Changing her mood, the heroine wonders how her father found out about the escapes, and worst of all, what would happen if he was notified about the flow. Claire tries to calm her down and always stays close, saying that even if everything is known, the king will not use it against his own daughter. If Melody is angry at an opponent, there is nothing worse than asking yourself and answering in kind. It goes beyond all bounds. The redhead can't know everything in this world, so the safest option is to go there and find out everything in detail. First, the princess meets with Sir Vidal, who has already had lunch. It is time to go to the backyard. It was the maid who saved the lady a month ago. There are rumors that they have been together since childhood, but the woman looks surprisingly young. Before the start, Corbella warns that she has never attended knightly training and does not wield a longsword. The girl learned to use only a dagger and did not master so many techniques. Caesar is surprised because then on the wall, the lady repelled many attacks. Then the best guard was also almost killed. The little girl smiles slyly again. Perhaps she just had a keen eye. In any case, the lady can't fight, so they'll have to come up with something better to spend time together. Stepping back, the young man says that he will defend himself, while the girl uses the flow if the longsword does not work. Something else can be used. Since Melody is just a student, she ends up with a wooden dagger from the swordmaster himself, which makes her quite happy. The fight begins. Blue eyes sparkle like a tiger that won't let go of its prey. Now when they try to attack and defend themselves, it becomes clear that the problem is not the weapon at all, but that the girl is too fast. Due to the onslaught of the enemy, the hero did not control the force, so he accidentally threw her far enough. He runs up to the lady, asking if everything is okay. Now they decide to rest. Kaiser managed to see what he needed. The movements are so fast that even the guards won't keep up. Perhaps all this is somehow connected with the flow, but the red-haired woman herself has no idea, because she has had something like this since birth. The flow passed through the body amplifies many times. The woman's fighting style is quite rough. She grimaces skeptically. The fact that Caesar is a real handsome man does not give him the right to be rude to those higher in status. The lady had already explained that she had never learned anything in her life. She didn't know that the lesson would go better than expected, but she also didn't try hard enough. The world would definitely go crazy if the princess, a crazy flower, got hold of a sword. It would be something that would definitely be unrealistic in relation to everything. The blonde suggests something, but doesn't know what exactly he remembers, that his companion told him that she decides for herself what to do in this life and what decisions to make. It seemed that during the few minutes that Caesar was silent, he was trying to at least roughly formulate the speech he wanted to make. If a person truly has talent, then it doesn't matter whether he is a man or a woman, because the most important thing is already visible. The beauty laughs, and then as if jokingly asks the sir if he would like to marry her, which doesn't sound so bad. Coughing, the blonde asks not to joke with such a thing in this sense. Everything is very strict. Sighing with a drop of disappointment, the little girl asks to teach her fencing. They will be able to fight on equal terms. Very soon, the girl wishes that it would be possible to arrange a real competition that would show who is better. Morning has come. The butler greets the duchess. The blonde asks if the servant is indignant at Kaiser himself. Without people like Waddell, the empire would have come to an end. The man returned home and worked again immediately after a short rest. The boy himself is good, but he has his father's character, which will make things very difficult for his future wife. It is unlikely that she will find a suitable girl who is cheerful enough to be around. The princess literally swallows the food. Claire, standing next to her, asks her not to rush and to wash it all down thoroughly. Mr. Waddell seemed to enjoy teaching his new friend, and he comes every 2 days. Love hasn't started yet. It's worth starting with just friendship in novels. They usually hold hands. Melody is outraged that it's not the same for them. The blonde quickly came to the conclusion that in order to teach the mistress, the man does not even need to touch. He simply gives instructions. The lady feels overloaded, and this does not make things any easier for her. Claire also suggests trying to go slow because the baby will get hers eventually, but she doesn't like that either. The hero is reading something in his office, trying not to be distracted by other factors. But it is difficult. Memories of Melody filled his head, making it impossible to hold back a smile. He had long since given up and decided that this was enough. More moments with the future wife become some kind of strange reminder that sits in the head. It's hard to believe that the gentleman is smiling slightly. Usually, he is only calm, and sometimes even extremely angry. The blonde had never experienced such a strong attraction before, but in any case, he denies everything. It's easier that way. The captain's reaction speaks for itself. He blushes slightly, and it's hard for him to restrain himself, which is even strange. The hero waves it off when Robel asks what that was all about. And he, as someone nearby, is surprised. The boy noticed that Caesar was constantly going somewhere, but he was forbidden to ask about it. Thoughts about someone cause inner joy. It makes you want to rejoice. The hero is not going to say anything else, as he realized that there is absolutely no point in it. Taking out his watch, Ruchi reminds him that it is time to go to tea with Empress Roach. Trying to prepare himself for the upcoming conversation, the guy promises that he will return. Soon he hopes that he will not stay long. Daisy asks her mother how long Caesar will wait. It turns out that male desire grows with anticipation. This can be noticed. Giving instructions to the girl, the queen orders her to keep her back straight and not show embarrassment. The young man will definitely ask for the girl's hand, and then even the emperor and Matilda will not be able to stop him. Valhalla noticed that the baby had gained weight, and she was furious because she kept repeating that thinness was a criterion for pleasing others. From this day on, the girl will eat less smoothly. Changing the subject, Roche asks about the New Year's dress. Since Rose's sister is no longer in the castle, the blonde plans to go with Nigel. My daughter has become smart, but this year the order will have to be cancelled. Another princess will go there. Finally, the meeting took place. But the captain was already angry. He did not understand how it was possible to be late, wasting his time. The empress didn't come either. She wasn't feeling well, so the heroine came instead of her. The beauty smiles and notes that it has been quite warm outside lately. It seems that spring is already approaching. The question about lunch was also asked. And then the blonde intends to find out what the groom likes in general. For some reason, this question made the Duke think of Melody, which was embarrassing news for him. Daisy couldn't help but notice that her question had puzzled the man a little, and she nervously asked what was wrong. We need to continue the conversation somehow, but asking about the same thing over and over doesn't seem like such an acceptable option. Her mother's annoying voice sounds in her head, and the next second, the beauty is already sure that the problem is only that she has gained weight. Still, the hero was late Melody, who noticed him almost immediately, waves her hand in greeting. Claire asks about lunch. And since they both haven't eaten yet, she'll prepare something after training. Simple practice and memorization of movements is no longer enough, alas. But that is exactly how things are, since she already knows the basics. The power of the flow is capable of stopping time. It is something separate, and for some reason it interests me the most. It took Corbella some time to master her own power, and even then it took her quite a while. As he sits down, the captain does not forget that if the gift is used incorrectly, it can even become a threat to a person's life. It seems that initially it was about stopping time and attacking an enemy who would be unable to do anything. It is better to pretend that nothing was said. Caesar hears that it is not about living beings, but something else. In this state, when the power is activated, it is forbidden to touch living beings. Once the maiden tried to kill a mosquito and was sick for a whole week afterwards. If you use this against people, suffering will come. The blonde does not understand last time. The lady easily slowed down the raindrops. Previously, the heroine did not think much about problems. She understood that, in this case, it was not interesting to her. They can try to take a risk, and as an example, the princess touches the cheek of her future husband, who freezes. Noticing the strange reaction, the redhead asks for forgiveness for accidentally touching him and doing something wrong. It's best not to get hung up on it. The heroine suggests starting training, so as not to slow down. After finishing, there were still thoughts of regret. Videl continued to ignore the beauty almost the entire way. The empress is already waiting for the princess. She is gathering her courage to go inside. After Jabril's death, Melody became a blank space for Roche. If she was summoned, there must be a motive hidden there. Melody enters the room. Her gaze meets that of a stately lady in a dark dress, sitting at a table with tea. The empress calmly tells her to sit down. Roche, with a slight smile, hands over a cup of tea and confidently talks about its benefits for women's health and rejuvenation. The girls listen attentively, standing nearby, and agree. Sitting with her back turned, the beauty listens to the calm voice of the queen, who informs her that the tea was specially prepared for her and can only be brewed once for the effect. It is impossible not to notice Melody's excellent behavior. The lady at the table notices the calmness and asks about the reasons. The girl with a smile answers that she only changed her appearance and began to attend meetings. The lady, with a serious expression on her face, notes that the emperor was furious because of his daughter's antics. She also points out that the little girl is not at all ashamed of her behavior. Melody takes the lady's words seriously, promising to take them into account, and the empress, in turn, smiles and says that the girl is like family to her, adding a touch of warmth to the conversation. The beauty tells Corbella that together with the queen they discussed and chose the best candidates for her to marry, giving her fate special significance. The time has already come. The heroine promises to discuss the issue with the emperor personally, since there will be no other opportunity for some time. The girl thanks him for his concern, but understands that everything is written right on her stepmother's face. Melody reflects that the men are generally good, but Caesar is not among them. She looks through the papers with the candidates. Her intentions are clear: to figure out how to add a blonde man to it. It is clear that Roche only warns that one should stay away from Wendell, who is going to become a groom for Daisy, the sister of the main character. The girl is horrified by the mere thought that the couple might get married. She feels sick. She doesn't even want to think about it, and she can't hide the disgust on her face. The heroine asks Claire why she chose Caesar. The maid answers with a smile that he is the most handsome man in the kingdom, and one cannot help but agree, continuing to smile. It remains to reflect with longing in her eyes that she simply wants a quiet life. It took her 3 years to implement this plan, and she will not allow anyone to interfere with its implementation. Melody realizes that she has found herself in His Majesty's private chambers in a matter of minutes. Her room is nearby. The man at the table calmly invites her in. His voice sounds confident and friendly. The girl leans over the chair to sit down. She remembers how long it has been since she saw her father, thoughtfully realizing how quickly time has flown by. It seems the girl has missed too much. The father in the room calmly says that if she wants him to know about the flow, then he will answer that he knows. But it is her choice. The answer will depend on the lady's thoughts. It seems that Corbella realizes that the king also knew about the escapes from the palace. It was he who asked to weaken the guard at the gates, so that it would be easier for his daughter to escape almost every night. The maid reassured the mistress, assuring her that even if His Majesty knew everything, he would not harm her. The words now made sense. The girl wondered why she had not been told about this before. The young man explains to the princess that she had reasons to hide this from him, and others, the girl, slightly surprised, wonders if her opinion is really important to him, and he nods in agreement. Corbella sits at the table and looks at the man with a slight reproach, asking why he pretended not to know anything all this time. His expression remains calm, nothing to say yet. The guy says quietly that he hopes no one else will find out about this. His face expresses weariness, and in his words, there is a desire to avoid further problems. The hero, with sadness in his eyes, says that his main priority is protecting Melody right now. That's all he can do for her, and his voice is full of care and determination. The man asks Melody with concern, hearing that she was seriously injured. He asks about her well-being, his voice full of sincere care and concern. Corbella calmly replies that she has fully recovered. The king warns her to be careful if she decides to leave the palace, as Sir Weddell's actions are different from his father's. Melody asks defiantly if he will forbid her to leave the palace. The emperor, with a slight smile and sadness in his voice, answers that he is unlikely to be able to do this. The only thing you need to know is that the young man will punish anyone who dares to attack his daughter. The girl jokes that he will then have to punish the entire palace. Finally, it was decided to tell that the lady wishes to marry Caesar Wendell. The maiden will definitely need the help of her father, who will be able to bring them together. The heroine's father ponders her desire to marry Kaiser, despite his status. The father doubts because the blonde seems too young and inexperienced to him. The girl says that thanks to the young man, she became interested in fencing. The emperor is surprised, but supports her, having learned that her friend insisted on learning this art. The father doubts Corbella's choice, because Wendell, although the most eligible bachelor, in his opinion, is just a young man who is only interested in fencing and swords. The heroine looks at the king of the empire with confidence, explaining that she came for his support, because he has more power, and only he can help her realize her plans. The man laughs, realizing his political opportunities, reminding her that he is the ruler of Corbel. The girl seriously says that Daisy also wants to marry Caesar. It does not suit her. Melody is wondering how she can marry the one she likes, and her father nods and says that he likes people who can fight for their own and defend their desires. Everything becomes clear anyway. Memories appear in her head. The guy asks his daughter for forgiveness for not being able to support her at Jibril's funeral. The main character silently listens to him, thinking about his words and her feelings. The beauty remembers the fear of a 9-year-old girl when she was left alone in a huge palace. In the twilight of the night, her thoughts again return to that moment of loneliness when her mother, who was sick, was nearby. The girl's face expresses despair. Her eyes are full of tears. What she just said should have been heard in a moment of weakness, needing consolation and hugs, and she needs it even now. Father and daughter are in an emotional embrace. The young man repents that he could not support the princess in a difficult moment and takes off his emperor mask for her sake, admitting his guilt. The hug continues as the hero regrets that he was not there when she needed his support the most. He asks her for forgiveness for his coldness in a difficult moment. The empress, sitting in her husband's office, asks him to consider candidates for husbands. On the table lie papers and books in which everything is written down to the smallest detail. The emperor reads the documents, commenting that the empress is busy with her worries. She agrees with a smile, emphasizing that the age of marriage has crept up even on Prince Nigel. The emperor, reading the scroll, reminds that his eldest son has been the heir for 6 years. Already, he reproaches Roche for refusing to acknowledge this and constantly turning away. The Valhalla clan proudly bears the title of the Clan of Gold, and they warn that, if the king makes them his enemies, the imperial treasury will be empty in a matter of weeks. The blonde's face shows anger. Her gaze is focused and furious in her thoughts. She wonders why the audacity to call a man an heir still exists. The woman with the cup of tea decides not to argue with the emperor, gently retreating from the conversation. It is better for her not to quarrel with him. She expresses concern about the absence of Princess Rose at the celebration. Usually, it is the Crown Prince and Princess Rose who help they bring out the golden wreath that marks the beginning of the celebration. Looking thoughtfully to the side, the young man says that he plans to discuss an important matter with Melody and Daisy tomorrow, which will need to be discussed in more detail. Daisy even prepared a dress for the occasion she was expecting, but now she is upset. After all, she is not destined to attend the celebration. The Empress understands that her daughter is going through a particularly difficult time right now, so she is the one who will have to go to the meeting, but she is still inexperienced, so Demos will join Nigel. As expected, Caesar is not among the candidates for Melody's husband. The man carefully studies the papers, thinking about a suitable option, but it is extremely difficult to choose. When Roche mentions marriage, all the attention of society immediately switches to this event, and specifically to the future Duchess herself. Sunlight floods the window in a quiet office. The maiden listens to the news. The man, looking thoughtfully out the window, speaks of the importance of the Weddell family. He warns that this power will become an obstacle on the path to marriage with Caesar, foreshadowing the difficult path that has begun. Something has to be decided. The hero says that he is postponing the question of his daughter's marriage to her sister Daisy until after the New Year's holiday, leaving time to make a decision. It would be best if the girl's father tried to see the Duke to speed up the marriage proposal, which could help the family cement the alliance they would definitely propose soon. The Emperor suggests returning to the question of Melody and Daisy's marriage after the New Year celebrations. He advises discussing it with Queen Matilda, postponing the choice until a time when they are all together. The heroine orders the servant to contact her brother. Her determined expression emphasizes the seriousness of the situation. The meeting with the man must take place immediately. She does not intend to wait. The girl reflects on her unexpected appointment to carry a golden wreath at an important event. It seems strange to her that Roche made such a decision after everything that happened between them. The question requires an answer, which unfortunately is not yet available. The girl decides to take a break and plans to go to the guild for cookies, believing that a whole box is a great idea. The beauty hides behind the rock, thinking about the weak point of the border between the wall and the rock where she can get through. She thinks if it will be faster to go down the mountain to get out. A man in a military uniform, with golden hair, turns to Corbella. Whom he caught, he asks if she is going to go somewhere, regardless of the circumstances. Laughing nervously, the beauty says that all this is a simple coincidence. However, if something like this happens on a regular basis, it is already fate. The beauty asks in bewilderment why he wants to leave in this way, but the interlocutor pretends not to have heard her, avoiding a direct answer to the question. The princess reflects on how difficult it is to get to the mercenary guild when an official trip requires an escort of servants' guards and a carriage-like for a ceremony. The girl looked at her interlocutor, with alarm folding her hands, as if in supplication. She asked him to go, but only for a minute to go to meet her. His answer was cold and decisive. After what he saw, it was impossible to agree, and his firm "no" sounded final. Of course, Caesar asks why the girl uses this method. In fact, she just wants some cookies. The blonde quickly understood what exactly they were talking about. The beauty realizes her mistake and goes back thinking that she can't make people work half-heartedly. Regret was written on her face. The young man promises to bring something important, and as she is about to leave, a smile spreads across her face, as if she has caught the kindness hidden in the words, and is glad that she will not be left without cookies. The young man calmly assures her that he will bring the cookies himself and asks her to wait a little. There is confidence in his voice, as if this is an important mission that he has taken upon himself. The young man, covering his face with his hand, remembers how he promised to bring cookies when he saw her upset. Now he is worried that she might think that she will have to wait until tomorrow, which is too long. Once again, he has to think deeply. The hero is afraid that if he doesn't bring the baked goods, his friend will decide to go herself. Doubts and anxiety are reflected on his face when he tries to decide what to do next. There aren't many options. Under cover of night, two people, a duke and his horse, approach a locked door when one of them knocks the man who greets them. Opening the door, sullenly says that the establishment is closed for the night. The blond man stands next to the horse, a little embarrassed. The blue eyes of the man who opened the door attract attention, because you rarely meet such. He timidly says that he came for cookies. The embarrassed hero apologizes against the backdrop of the horse. He repeats again, so that he can be heard. Nothing comes out. The brunette, clearly surprised, asks again, trying to understand what exactly he said. The young man exclaims in surprise, stunned by the request. He begins to give instructions, directing the guest to the green door on the third floor, where he can get the desired pastries. Of course, the first thing to do is to tie up the horse. The Duke himself knows very well that the animal has an unpredictable character that needs to be gotten used to. Without restlessly stroking the horse, the brunette confidently declares that he gets along well with animals, although he himself does not fully believe it. Trying to explain that he was simply lucky, the man walks up the stairs into the store, looking around at the shelves of goods, the thought that this place would be perfect for Princess Melody not leaving his head. The Duke looks around, noting that everything looks normal. The seller asks what happened to the girl. Usually she comes herself. It turns out that the lady tried to jump off the roof. Corbella's friend laughs, promising to bring cookies tomorrow. He knows that she will eat 5 at once, and understands that the prepared amount will definitely not be enough. It seems to be already known that Caesar can freely enter and leave the palace. This will be to his advantage. It seems that this thought has only just occurred to him. The butler is confused. He does not understand what is happening, but remembers how the gentleman said that he could not come as he was busy patrolling, but showed up anyway. The man looks at the stack of boxes in the boy's hands and is perplexed, trying to understand why he brought so many boxes if he claimed that he was too busy. The servant wonders in bewilderment about the strange behavior of the young master who never ate cookies as a child, and now suddenly decided to bring a whole bunch of them into the kitchen. The character, also not letting go of the box, decides that it would be more convenient for him to keep them with him, then asks to bring a bag that will fit about 20 pieces of baked goods, thinking out loud. Of course, Kaiser is nervously unable to admit that he is going to take the cookies to the princess. He comes up with an excuse asking for help because he alone cannot cope with delivering the food. The butler exclaims in surprise, but the master no longer hears him, quickly running upstairs. The old man remembers how he worked in this house for 35 years. He notes that this is a place where life requires ingenuity to survive. The first thing the servant does is order a bag of 20 cookies to be prepared, emphasizing that it should be cute and beautiful. He hurries the others, wanting a perfect result, as he understands where this is all leading. The elegant heroine sitting at the table curiously asks what happened last night, that the son stayed at home. She mentions that she heard him return from sleeping in the palace. The woman thinks discontentedly that although Caesar is handsome, there is nothing interesting or similar to her. In him, she wonders whether he will change if he has someone important. The mother asks why Kaiser stayed home overnight when he always spends the night at the palace. She heard that he had returned, but she wants to know what happened. The servant proudly presented a beautifully decorated bag, which he had prepared at the request of the owner. The item had an elegant pattern and delicate flowers, adding sophistication. The woman looked at him with bewilderment. Her eyebrows raised in surprise. She thought about what had just appeared before her eyes. She clearly did not expect such an elegant decoration. The Duchess stands at the door, directly addressing the man sitting at the table. She is agitated and asked to talk, and he asks what happened so early in the morning. Also standing in the doorway, with an anxious expression on her face, the lady reports that their son has a lover. Vidal Sr. is perplexed and does not understand where such guesses come from. At the table during that dinner, the boy made excuses that there was no other bag except the one with a floral pattern, and asks for forgiveness for this. His mother suspects and asks for whom this gift is intended. The mother, talking over a cup of tea, explains that she found out from the butler why her son bought so many cookies all packed in boxes, and this makes it clear that they were definitely not intended for him. The man does not move and does not show any signs of interest. He continued to say with a grin that this does not seem true. The beauty emphasized that everything is not so simple. Looking out the window thoughtfully, the Duchess feels that anxiety is growing, or rather, it is the anticipation of something new. She wonders out loud why they gave cookies as if to a beloved from a poor family. It seems that no noble lady would be happy with a cookie as a gift, because it is nothing special. Although pleasant, she is clearly unhappy with this choice of her son. Duke Wendell says, with concern in his voice, that His Majesty may be considering Caesar as a potential husband for his daughter. They have not yet begun discussions. Everyone already knows what can happen to Kaiser. The lady is worried about his one-sided thinking, and the fact that if he doesn't like something, his beloved will have a hard time in their life together. Virgo greets a man who came to her early in the morning. With a slight smile, she jokes, asking if he missed her, that he decided to come so early. Caesar stands with a thoughtful face, clutching a small bag of cookies to his chest. His thoughts anxious, he is about to hand over the gift, his heart ready to jump out of his chest. The hero is still tormented by doubts. He worries whether his girlfriend will smile when she sees the gift, and he doesn't know how he would react, but he wants the best. The decorated bag ends up in the hands of the interlocutor, who has already gone downstairs. This surprises her. He does not understand what is happening, because it is still early morning, and this was completely unexpected. The young man says, with slight uncertainty, that he will bring cookies if they wait for him. The red-haired woman cries out with joy, realizing that she received some goodies. Caesar looked at the girl thoughtfully, doubting whether she would understand his intentions. But he thanked himself for keeping his word. Although he was not sure of her reaction, he was just lucky that everything ended well. Slightly embarrassed, the hero thought about what it meant to give gifts. It turned out that it was a pleasant activity. His face was serious, but in his thoughts, something completely different was hovering when he decided that it was time to leave. The Duke says this a little annoyed, but still explains that he still has plenty of cookies, and asks next time to just ask him, instead of climbing the walls. The Duke says this a little annoyed, but still explains that he still has plenty of cookies, and asks next time to just ask him, instead of climbing the walls. The girl nods. She asks if Waddell had a fight with the person who gave him the cookies. Her face expresses genuine surprise, and she doesn't know that they almost got into a fight. Caesar replies that the man was polite. Of course he's lying. Corbella happily notes that she can now eat cookies without remorse, realizing that the hero was busy, but still helped. It's sweet. The man, arms crossed, says that things are not going according to plan, and Roche, sitting at the table, agrees, adding that something new has appeared that has changed the situation. Marquis Trent Valhalla speaks with a serious expression, realizing that one mistake could lead to war. His interlocutor wonders if everything is happening too soon. It is not clear what Queen Matilda and her family did for the Empire, because it was without Roche that the Empire would not have been so safe. The woman grips the knife in anger, outraged that the Crown Prince was declared heir. She is sure that Deimos is much more suitable for this role. Anxiously hiding her face behind her fan and thinking over her plan, the lady understands that she does not need to get rid of Nigel yet. It is enough for her son to put on a golden crown and enter the hall. As for Melody, it will be quite difficult to marry her off right after the New Year celebration. We need to come up with something new. Prince Deimos is cruel and unbalanced, and not very bright, as Trent notes, and there are rumors that he practically lives in a gambling house. Highly agitated, Roche holds her fan in her hand as she continues to argue furiously. She blames Nigel, claiming that everything happened because of him, and that her son has stepped aside in his father's eyes. The heroine looked at her interlocutor with anxiety. Her voice trembled with tension when she uttered a request to believe in Deimos Valhalla. Bowing his head, understands that he has no other choice. Melody looked at the maid with a thoughtful expression, holding a small bag in her hands. The maid asked what she couldn't do, and Melody mentioned that she had to marry Caesar. The maid asks her in surprise and reminds her of her previous attempt to climb the wall for cookies. But it turned out that Mr. Waddell himself brought her the cookies. Everything became clear. Corbella Jr. happily holds a cookie in her hands and smiles. She says that her future husband told her that he now has a lot of baked goods and promised to bring them to her from time to time. The heroine would be lying if she said that she was not happy that she now had an excuse to see him. More often, Claire, surprised, asks again that he said so. Thinking to herself with a bit of warmth, the girl is glad that he chose this bag for the cookies himself. A mixture of surprise can be seen in her eyes. She did not expect the packaging to be so beautiful. Everyone knows the beautiful golden wreath that only the imperial family possesses. Legend has it that the first ruler of Corbel received this thing from a deity when the time came. The New Year celebration, with its roots in myth, became one of the most significant events of the empire, maintaining its importance from ancient times to the present day. Every year, the crown prince and his wife receive a golden crown. If the prince is not married, he is accompanied by a prince or princess from the royal family, his sister or brother. The heroine reflects on the fact that since Rose left the palace, it is time for her to leave too. She worries about Daisy, who is not feeling well, and plans her actions. She needs to be helped somehow. The maid listens to the instructions of the mistress, who says that her task is to find the heir, and that very thing on the Polonia branch. She clarifies whether there is anything else that needs to be known. The girl, with a serious expression on her face, explains that Ariel Gorge is a sacred place, and it is necessary to keep quiet there. She also mentions that the clothes for the trip have already been prepared. The princess can't help but look worried, thinking about how she will have to perform 3 ablutions a day and watch her every action, not understanding what all the fuss is about. The main character looks away thoughtfully, remembering how she was given a writing lesson just in case. Although she had never been taught this before, her thoughts reflecting slight bewilderment. The heroine screams indignantly, her eyes wide open, her face expressing shock. She is unhappy with the proposal to sit on the horse sideways and ride in a way that seems absurd to her. Sitting calmly on her horse, the blue-haired girl gently reminds him that all women use a side saddle, adding that it is impossible to ride like knights. Melody indignantly pushes the saddle resolutely, declaring that she will never sit sideways on a horse. The servants look at her in confusion, realizing that persuasion is useless. The horse suddenly began to go berserk, causing everyone to become frightened. The main character, already sitting on it, does not understand what is happening, and her companions in a panic call for her to get off. The heroine, calming the animal, smiles confidently, feeling that she is perfectly handling the controls. She says, with a satisfied look, that the training was unnecessary. Now everyone knows that the lady would never use a side saddle, even if the sky opened up. Confidence is visible in every movement, because it's all too simple. The young man shouts angrily about why no one can bring him cold water, complaining about the heat and lack of shelter, which he is sure he could have avoided by asking his uncle for help. Deimos loudly orders those around him to be careful with their luggage, angrily pointing out the importance of handling it carefully to avoid trouble. The two riders rode side by side, and one of them thought with displeasure that he had expected such behavior from his brother, but he was still irritated. This was only day number 1, but he had no strength left. The man exclaims irritably, probably for the 100th time, he does not know why Nigel took the carriage with him, because of it, they cannot speed up. An equally angry Melody looks out of the carriage window and indignantly shouts that the problem is not this, but the useless saddle that her brother gave her. She demands to understand what she wants to say. The young man turns to his friend, while the girl is shouting that it is too noisy here, and that the guy has not been quiet since the capital, adding that he is not the only one suffering, although he pretends that this is the case. The red-haired prince rode his horse with a happy smile on his face, thinking about how good he felt after what he had said behind him. Everyone was trying to hold back their laughter, observing the mood. Deimos speeds up and then asks why they brought this mad woman with them. Nigel, calmly holding the reins, advises them to choose their words, keeping their cool. The girl happily raises her hands up, stretching a little and exclaiming that they survived, rejoicing in the freedom from constant whining next to her. In the carriage stands a companion, who now also feels much better. The servant is holding only one suitcase, which Her Majesty brought with her, while Deimos is unloading a whole bunch as if he was going to move out of the palace. The lady calmly turns to ask something else, before going somewhere she doesn't want to leave this unfinished. The princess smiles confidently and tells Claire to rest, because she has one idea. The maid, a little worried, carefully watches the actions of her mistress. The girl goes to her escorts, asking about the length of the journey. One of them confirms that the road to the Ariel Gorge will take a week. A serious look shines. Melody suggests abandoning the carriage and riding on horseback, believing that it will be faster. Her determination emphasizes the confidence in her own strengths, which only she herself can appreciate. One of the princes, with doubt in his voice, asks if she knows what it is to ride a horse, warning that the road ahead will be difficult and that she will have to spend the night in the open air. The heroine resolutely declares that she is ready to sleep on the street, just so as not to waste time on complaints. Nigel asks in amazement. He did not think that his sister was so resilient. 3 characters stand nearby, clearly taken by surprise, looking at what is happening around them. The lady looks at the man in surprise and makes excuses, pretending that she did not say anything. It's time to go on vacation. The little girl waves her hand and thus says goodbye to her friends. They will see each other very soon. Wendell has a cookie in his hand, and with a slight smile, he asks if it's time for sweets. The princess's maid respectfully informs him that the mistress has already eaten everything, so he's just in time. Melody asks if her friend can ride a horse, and Claire answers reservedly but confidently that of course she can. And of course, the heroine decides that this is a chance to stop her brother's grumbling. Corbella the younger looks fresh and cheerful after her morning nap. She does not forget to greet everyone, from the Crown Prince to Lord Waddell and his companions, feeling confident. Lucas Moderato, the prince's bodyguard, stands with a serious expression on his face. His head slightly bowed, introducing himself politely, he observes subordination, waiting for the reaction of the interlocutor. Melody declares that she will not go in a carriage, preferring horseback riding, and is ready to spend the night in the open air. It seems that everyone around has already heard about this. Her face expresses confidence in her words. The prince is worried and asks what they should do if she falls off her horse, but the girl has come up with something and quickly runs away, promising that she will return right away. The elder Corbella looks coldly at his sister and reproaches her, claiming that it is impossible to talk to her about chastity and good manners. He does not understand why she, being a girl, wears trousers. Melody looks irritated, indignant. She also doesn't know why Deimos is always complaining either. He's not happy with her carriage or the heat, and now even her appearance. The prince looks even more angry. Something inside him has turned over. His face is frowning. The girl, calm, declares that her carriage is causing inconvenience to everyone, so she decides to ride on horseback instead of the carriage. The heroine looks on with a confident expression and explains that the crown prince is looking after them, and even if she falls off her horse, the guard will not be punished. The heir reflects with a slight smile on the girl who, having ridden a horse just a couple of times, already demonstrates her confidence and ardor like an experienced rider. The heir reflects with a slight smile on the girl who, having ridden a horse just a couple of times already, demonstrates her confidence and ardor like an experienced rider. Easily climbing onto a horse without stirrups, the heroine surprises everyone with her agility. The future emperor and his retinue are amazed by her grace and cannot hide their surprise. Deimos looks at the scene in confusion, noting to himself that even he needs to hold on to the saddle with both hands as he climbs onto the horse. Melody looks ahead with determination in her eyes. She thinks about trotting, but decides to walk slowly to her destination, leading her horse so that everything will go well. The guard panics and realizes that the princess is riding too fast, and if she falls she could die, and immediately gives the order to ride after the princess. The main character, despite not holding the reins, rushes forward, and it is difficult to catch up with her. Those accompanying her are worried and ask her to take the reins, but she is distracted by the gratitude for the cookies. Despite the concern of those around her, the girl continues to gallop, but her horse begins to get nervous. Waddell notices this and anxiously asks what is happening. The guy watched in surprise as Melody handled the horse with ease, although he thought he shouldn't be surprised, because she could jump on a wall. The girl finally gets off the animal. She looked ahead confidently, and her determination grew with each passing moment. Even Caesar Weddell seemed unable to catch up with her. It was truly impressive. Smiling her gentle smile, the beauty touches her horse's head, addressing Deimos, hinting that they will be able to move faster today, and then asks Nigel if he liked everything. Finally, the delegation sets off for the search site. The man reflects that it was foolish of him to think that Melody would be a burden. She turns out to be more determined and talented than he expected. Under the girl's majestic imperial cloak, there suddenly appears a beautiful bag of cookies, which she offers to her friends. Of course, they don't go together at all. The young man tries to laugh, but the beauty does not understand at all what is happening, so she decides not to react at all. There is no point in this. Melody smiles and replies that she learned to ride in preparation for the ceremony. Her companion looks at her with curiosity, surprised by her answer. The young man in response asks if they don't teach side saddle riding there, as if checking how well the girl knows the rules of horse riding, which are always different. Corbella, sitting confidently on his horse, asks with a grin if His Highness has ever tried riding sideways. She looks up from below in surprise, trying to comprehend the question. In fact, the heroine never understood who invented the side saddle. She decided to replace it with a regular one long ago. She has never ridden a horse, but she confidently intends to train. Nigel chuckles quietly, clearly trying to contain himself. The heroine looks at him in surprise and asks with slight concern what has him so amused, but then smiles too. Deimos yells at the servants. Everything is normal for now, while Melody, with a cold expression on her face, understands that even without looking at the situation, everything has already become obvious. The red-haired man with a dissatisfied face says irritably that they don't even have the strength to serve him and is not going to show mercy. His gaze is full of contempt, and he orders the awning to be raised. The heroine curiously asks why they took Deimos with them. Her interlocutor calmly answers that this man is also one of the royal blood and advises to watch the road. Melody hangs her head and apologizes, admitting that, although she doesn't want to admit it, the other man was right, and she knows she should have understood. Melody and her companions sit at a table in the garden. Enjoying the moment, one of them remarks that this may be their last proper meal, and they agree. The girl looks confused when asked why she took the carriage. If she planned to leave, her gaze shows confusion and an attempt to find an excuse. The red-haired man speaks to Melody sternly, warning her that she could bring shame to the name of the imperial family. He warns her of the bad reputation that could spread, just like what happened to the mad flower of the imperial court. The heroine sat at the table, looking at Deimos with a displeased expression. She asked not to be disturbed during the meal, clearly irritated by his interference. The brunette, with his head down, hears reproachful words. From the very beginning of his communication with her, the princess heard only rudeness. The hero leaned towards his brother, coldly, warning him that he would not tolerate any more noise from him. The tension between them was palpable, as if darkness had enveloped the stage. Nigel leans forward with a thoughtful expression and says, for the prince to consider his words, his tone is serious, making it clear that the conversation is important in response. Deimos, hiding his hurt and feeling of pressure, says with barely noticeable sarcasm that the air showed generosity, which emphasizes the tension between them. Deimos gave the order to bring tobacco, speaking with cold confidence. His entourage trembled in fear of him, but obeyed without further question. A man in military uniform, seething with anger, demands to know who broke the expensive wine. His subordinate, trembling with fear, makes excuses that he doesn't know because of the mess. His angry eyes burn with rage. His hand reaches forward to grab the offender. He threatens to show by example what will happen if the criminal does not confess. The lady comes forward saying that she did it, and it's all her fault. This madness won't just stop with Nigel's rational approach. The wound is deep, the blood flows without stopping. The servant lies on the ground next to the fragments. His strength is running out. If no measures are taken, he may lose consciousness, and the master will punish him. Melody Corbella is a famous crazy flower that everyone knows about. She will never fall before a prince who behaves like that. The hero looks forward, with an icy expression on his face, doubting what happened. He is surprised that the woman broke the object, because even his mother and brother show him respect. The woman looks straight ahead, her blue eyes full of determination. Inside she admits her guilt, but feels no fear in her gaze. There is only contempt for what happened. The boy pulls his hand away, feeling how rage begins to overwhelm him. The beauty's gaze, full of contempt, drives him crazy, causing him to finally lose control. Caesar, full of anger, grabbed the man by the hand, unable to restrain himself. The girl stands next to him, watching as tension brews between them. The blonde keeps his cool, although he understands that it is extremely difficult because he swung at a royal person. Deimos, clearly irritated, pulls away in frustration, deciding that further argument will only hurt him. Melody and Nigel watch his reaction, each with their own thoughts. The beauty speaks quietly but firmly. Even if her brother hits her, she will not give in and will not fall. The real part is genuine, and at this moment, her determination is stronger than fear. Melody looks straight into his eyes, full of threat, but she does not retreat if he decides to hit her. She will not stand aside. Something unprecedented shines in her blue eyes. The crown prince looks stern. His eyes full of determination, he addresses his brother as a representative of the royal family, and as the one who will be the future emperor, demanding that he return to the palace immediately. Looking at her interlocutor with a challenge, the lady fills her eyes with determination, of which she has too much, while the others watch what is happening. Deimos is already leaving, and says that he will not tolerate bragging about the title. The heroine laughs sincerely, reminding her interlocutor that she barely escaped public humiliation. He apologizes for not being able to protect her and not intervening in time. The girl smiles mockingly, emphasizing that the scene of a fight between members of the royal family could become a real spectacle. Her interlocutor asks in bewilderment how else she can joke. Nigel had somehow thought that the princess was scared and acting as expected. But now looking at her, at this moment, he sees the real her with that spark of unpredictability that he had not seen before. The hero looks at Melody thoughtfully, wondering if she really broke the bottle, his gaze full of doubt, trying to understand if she is telling the truth. The beauty looks at her interlocutor. With a smile, she explains that if she had not intervened, the situation could have continued further. But he supports her, saying that she is doing well. The captain stands in front of the maid. She is grateful for the help of the mistress, and jokes that if no one had intervened, then real bedlam would have happened right in front of everyone gathered. The man doubts that Melody could have broken the bottle, wondering about her motives. The heroine confirms the princess has always been like this, secretive and determined. There is no point in surprising her. The girl also thanks the man as soon as she approaches, noting that without his help, a bruise would have already appeared on her cheek. Her gaze shines with gratitude and light irony, emphasizing courage and ease. A man in a military uniform looks at his interlocutor with bewilderment, not understanding why she took the blame for an act that was not committed. His face expresses confusion and concern. Melody looks at the Duke with a slight smile, confident that he will always be there to support her. He's shocked by her words, quietly asks what it means, and blushes. Corbella happily states that she knew the prince would protect her, showing his playful nature again. The prince covers his face with his hand, sighing as she is at it again. The girl doesn't quite understand why the hero suddenly went silent. He was thinking about something and didn't even really hear anything, which is sad. The blonde was stunned by his feelings, which seemed overwhelming to him. Something inside him turned over every time the lady said something. The entrance to the gorge was dangerous, with cliffs and slippery areas. To calm the horses, they blindfolded them. The three riders carefully moved forward. Along the narrow path, Ariel was already close. To stay on the narrow road, she has to pull herself together. Although her mind is in doubt, suddenly an eagle appeared in the sky, ahead. Her eyes flashed with admiration. For the first time she sees such a large creature. Melody happily remarks on how fresh the air is. Her companion agrees. Despite the dangers of the journey, Nigel thinks that there is nothing to worry about. This trip seems like a walk. The future empress turns to the prince with a pleading look in her eyes, asking him to make sure to take her with him to celebrate the new year, her face full of a sincere desire not to miss this opportunity. A promise is made, to which Milady responds with joy, that next year she will again accompany him, smiling. She says that she took him at his word, expressing her enthusiasm. Melody, enjoying a walk through her native lands, does not miss the opportunity to enjoy sweets. Her smile and contented look indicate that she is truly relaxed. Claire often heard the little girl's questions about what Jibril was like. She tried to teach Melody to love, because the little girl gave her joy, and she wanted to respond in kind. If the lady marries, the maid will have to return to the mountains of Aviv. But she does not know if she will be able to do this. The more she taught the girl to love, the more she began to love her herself. The girl looks around, the pitch tense, looking at every corner with interest. One of the characters notes that she likes it, and the second confirms his observation. She loved fresh air so much that she even jumped onto the palace wall. One man wondered with surprise how she had managed to survive at court with such habits. The red-haired man asked Lucas to keep an eye on the surrounding area in case of danger. He understood that this place was the home of Ariel's white wolves, and it could be dangerous here. Two men walk side by side, discussing their past acquaintance. One of them asks Caesar whether he knew Melody. The guy answers briefly and calmly, because they saw each other at the banquet. Kaiser looks away sullenly, his face reflecting slight confusion from the words he heard, the words about him, not taking his eyes off of Corbella Jr. Make him get lost in his thoughts for a moment. Nigel raises his hand to his chin with a slight grin, his eyes sparkling with cunning. He says that all it takes is a look to make what you want come true, hinting at something deeper. The prince thinks that Caesar is not his friend, and that he and the crown prince also do not have any special connections. However, despite this, their relationship always remained at the level of understanding, which allowed them to find a common language in various situations. Now that Rose has become the Empress of Azen, none of this matters. Although before this, Mother considered Caesar as a husband and kept a close eye on him, the girl once told the truth. It turned out that no matter how much the couple drank tea, the ice did not melt, and in the end, she did not want to marry such a cold man. Despite Rose's words, the hero was always focused on only one person. He could not look away, and tried to find her in the crowd of the group. The Duke watches her every move closely, whether she is in a carriage or on a horse. He even seems to care about how well she has eaten and tries to protect her from all dangers, even if it means standing in the way of Demos when he raises his hand. This behavior is completely different from the indifferent and calm Videl, whom everyone is used to seeing angry, and even a little indifferent. His gaze and slight smile hide something more. Looking at Caesar with a slight smile, the hero says that he should think about marrying Melody, but the man is stunned by his words, not understanding why this is being brought up now. It has already become known that Roche intends to marry his daughter to Caesar. Daisy is considered the best option for him, but only in her opinion, and not in the opinion of others. The Empress has chosen suitable candidates for marriage with her stepdaughter. She plans to marry her off immediately after the New Year celebration, leaving no choice or extra time for reflection. The hero had only two options, Melody or Daisy Corbella. These two girls are the only ones that are suggested, because everything has already been decided. Of course, His Majesty lacks talented people nearby, such as the Duke of the Empire. And if he joins the family, it will be a very good plus, and even help for him. Nigel, standing opposite his friend, asks him not to be embarrassed. The guy adds that he will not expect Kaiser to support his side after marrying his beloved, adding seriousness to the conversation. Caesar looked closely at his interlocutor. Hearing his words about the look, he knew that this was not a simple expression, because his thoughts were increasingly absorbed by one figure, the princess. Nigel points to a dense forest, where they say the golden crown is hidden. He notes that it is a sacred place, and therefore they will go there together. The hero confidently walks forward, turning around with a slight smile, and telling you to just follow him. So as not to get lost, his confidence gives you peace of mind, promising that nothing complicated will happen. The servant respectfully informs that everything is ready. The clothes and daggers for the important event are in the box that was brought in front of him. Lie luxurious outfits decorated with gold and blue patterns. Melody sniffs the air restlessly, feeling a strange smell, and asks Claire about it, but she does not notice anything unusual. Her friend begins to worry, not understanding what is happening. It worries her. It turned out that the clothes were soaked in holy water. Perhaps this is the reason for such a smell. It is better to go so as not to be late and return in the evening. The lady finds a dagger in her hands, which she examines with interest. It is quite luxuriously decorated, but it can also be used for its intended purpose without any problems. Claire doesn't listen to the conversation of the royals. She looks ahead thoughtfully. It seems to her that the smell from the clothes is familiar, but it is quite difficult to remember, as if everything flew out of her head a second before. The lady had felt something similar for quite a long time. Even before she left the Aviv Mountains, a lot of time had passed. Since then, the memories had become mixed up, and therefore the heroine decided that these were just herbs that were nearby. The blonde freezes when she hears the wolf howl. She feels a little uneasy. The prince, standing next to his sister, calmly says that it looks like Ariel's white wolves have come. The white wolves walk confidently forward, their shadows blurring on the ground. Tension in the air, but the voice sounds soothing. They do not attack first, especially not on people. The guy asks if she smells anything, and the friend, pressing herself against his shoulder, replies that the smell is stronger from his clothes, adding respectful words. Melody, hearing the joke, smiles slightly, raising her hand to her face, as if thinking. Nigel, laughing cheerfully, notes that she has not changed at all, always remaining the same. Corbella stands in a robe that still smells, smiling slightly, embarrassedly, admitting that it was hard for her to wear a dress and still remain calm. Her gaze seems light, but there is tension in it. Still standing next to the prince, the heroine lowers her head in a sad gesture. She quietly asks if she is disgusting to him. The man, looking at her, puzzled, asks why she thinks so. The girl, with a serious expression, tells the prince that if Rose had not gone to Eisen, they would have been able to get a useful person. The protagonist listens attentively to her reasoning. Nigel thinks to himself with admiration that Melody is smart. He asks her if she would like to become the Empress of Eisen, and of course the little girl, calmly answering, says that she wanted to stay in the Corbel family. The prince reflects that now it has become clear to him that his sister has really turned into a crazy flower of the imperial palace. His face remains calm because it was just her plan. The serious expression on his face doesn't go away. The young man looks into the distance and says that since their sister became the Empress of Eisen, why would he treat Melody badly? His voice sounds confident and calm. The future emperor gently places his hands on the redhead's shoulders. Their gazes meet. He says with confidence that for him there is no difference between her and Rose. She looks at him with surprise. A slight smile shines through, and advises her to find her match, adding that if she doesn't have anyone in mind, then perhaps she should pay attention to Caesar Waddell. Melody, looking away with restraint, offers her help in organizing the marriage. If the candidate suits her, her face maintains a serious expression, but a grain of doubt is visible in her eyes. The girl remains below and looks through the foliage, noticing that they are guided by the ribbons on the trees, and asks with disbelief, "Didn't the prince say that he knows the way?" The hero pretends that such a thing never happened. Nigel asks with a smile and a playful tone, "Where is the respect for her elder brother?" And the heroine, with exaggerated seriousness, replies that she has infinite respect for His Highness the Crown Prince taking a step forward. Finally, the couple found themselves in that very sacred place, and it was time to see something important. They approach the tree, and Melody, looking at it, is surprised. It turned out to be higher than she expected. The prince, having pulled out his sword, admits that they will not reach the goal. He will have to climb it himself. He asks the heroine to help with the ladder, noting that it is heavy and can be difficult to manage. Starting to climb the ladder, the hero tries to hold it with his hand as confidently as possible and asks his sister to wait below and hold it too. She agrees, watching his movements from below. His hand reaches up, leaving no chance to think, and trying to reach the golden crown that hangs high on the tree. He realizes that the crown is too high and it is dangerous. Corbella, looking up with concern, thinks that the higher the prince climbs, the thinner the branches become, and she fears that they may not be able to support the weight of a grown man. Without wasting another second, the main character offers her candidacy to climb up. Believing that it is too dangerous for the prince, the man, in turn, decisively answers that she should not even think about it, because it is dangerous. The guy looks at Melody with concern and calls her by name. He asks her to come down, warning that the branch is too weak and may not support both of them. The beauty froze, realizing the danger. The prince looks up with a slight smile, holding the ladder. He wonders where it has ever been seen that a princess could ride a horse and climb trees. The red-haired girl has almost reached the treasured thing. Melody carefully reaches for the golden crown among the branches. The prince asks her to take it and come down, warning her about the branches. She concentrates, trying to carefully remove the crown, but her gaze is tense. The princess freezes, hearing a strange sound. She thinks it is the wind, but realizes it is something else. Bright red eyes are looking at her from the dark forest. The beast is quietly creeping, preparing, but for now, not making any movements. The heroine tenses up, hearing a howl that echoes in the forest. She understands that it is the call of a white animal from the mountains of Ariel calling for his flock. A slight chill runs across her skin. It's time to be especially careful, because there may be predatory tigers from the mountains of Libya lurking in the area. Claire realizes that the smell on their clothes belongs to the avian tiger. Ariel's white wolves, known for their ferocity and protectiveness of their offspring, show no mercy to their enemies. And the maid realizes something important in horror, belatedly exclaiming why she only realized it now. The woman calls Mr. Weddle in a panic, saying that it is urgently necessary to send people for the lady and His Highness. Below, among the wolves, the prince and Melody are in danger. Mr. Weddle, frowning, demands an explanation of what happened. The girl excitedly explains that the princess's clothes smell of an avian tiger, which could lead to danger. The wolves are excited by the scent of the enemy and are about to attack. The interlocutor is surprised and reproaches Claire for being overly anxious, reminding her that not everyone can safely enter the forest, only a few can. The blonde woman, listening carefully, understands that the howl foretells an attack. Two knights in dark uniforms prepare for a possible attack, exchanging short glances, even if they do not believe in what is happening. The knights and soldiers receive orders from their commander to arm themselves and follow him immediately. He commands confidently, aware of the danger in the foggy, where only members of the imperial family can enter. The hero's boot carefully steps onto the sacred ground. He ponders whether it is a sin to break the ban, or whether it is more important to save two people in danger. And of course, he has already decided everything. The girl feels cold sweat on her skin, and hot blood pulsates inside. An atmosphere of danger thickens around them. Someone is clearly pursuing them with the intent to kill. Melody holds her sword tensely and listens to her companion's words. He suggests she duck and keep her weapon at the ready, but she notices that something is wrong with her. Predatory animals, and especially such a breed, are something extremely terrible. They spare no one, and so they hesitate, waiting for the right moment to attack, choosing the one who looks weaker. Two characters stand with their backs to each other, holding their swords at the ready, and a pack of white wolves approaches them, ready to attack, which makes them incredibly scared until their blood runs cold. The main character, with a wound on her cheek and a slightly dirty face, looks exhausted but pleased with her victory. Her eyes are filled with pain and fatigue, and her thoughts are surprised that the wolf disappeared so quickly. The hero is preparing for a fight. He needs to collect his thoughts so as not to accidentally get caught. Now his whole life depends on it. The hero, sword in hand, looks at the enemy's thoughts rushing through his head. The smell of blood woke up the animals, and now he is thinking about how to get out of here alive, along with the others. The beauty struggles to defend herself from the attack of a huge wolf, realizing that she will neither be able to run away nor dodge with a sword. The animals rush at her, making her the main target. The girl tries to fight off the attack, but notices that Nigel is getting hit several times. There are traces of blood and dirt on her face, and she watches the situation with alarm. Behind Nigel, a huge wolf's mouth appeared ready to attack. Even if he screamed, it would not save him from death. It was time to make a decision and try to save him at any cost. Melody looks at Nigel with concern, her face twisted in doubt as she wonders if it would be okay for him to know about her unusual powers. But now is not the time to hesitate. The beauty, trembling with tension, squeezes Nigel's hand resolutely, shouting that they need to run. Her hearing sharpens, and the animals continue to attack. Salvation seems more and more distant. Nigel stops abruptly, looking at Melody in surprise, when she notices that the wolves have slowed down. But it's temporary, so she quickly asks where there is water nearby to swim. There seems to be a river in the gorge. Melody, clutching her brother's hand, runs forward, realizing that they urgently need to wash away the smell. The man points to the gorge with the river. "Let me, but just don't let go of my hand," she screams. The Duchess was breathing heavily, surrounded by feelings of panic and fear. Thoughts were flashing. She could not breathe, her heart was pounding, and her head was spinning, filling her ears with ringing. The man's gaze is directed forward, but suddenly the girl's foot trips over a root. She stumbles sharply, losing her balance. At this moment, the realization of weakness comes suddenly. Floating on the edge of consciousness, Melody's strength is fading, and Nigel desperately catches her falling body. The noise of voices coming from afar. Their journey almost complete, but time is running out. The beauty looks with weakening eyes, realizing that if she loses consciousness, the enemies will quickly catch up with them. Her only thought is to wash away the smell so that they have a chance. The deeper they go, the more the smell of blood becomes stronger, and the captain cannot shake the feeling that danger is getting closer and that they are walking into a trap. They noticed traces of wolves, but no people were visible. Caesar of them asked where everyone had gone, while another asked in bewilderment why they were there. There is even more blood. The hero goes forward with his horse, seeing dead wolves, and stops at one of the bodies in his hands. He holds the princess's cape. Realization takes hold of him. Kaiser holds the bloody cloak, assuring himself that they are okay, because the princess is stronger than she looks. If she used the flow, they could not have run far. The main character orders his men to split into groups and survey the area. They quickly respond, ready to immediately begin carrying out the order. Claire stands next to the officer, wondering how to find the missing people. She assumes that they realized the reason for the wolf attack and tried to get rid of the source of the smell. A man and a woman discuss how to find the missing people. The girl suggests that they guessed the reasons for the wolf attack and decided to wash away the smell at the river, which is located in the gorge. The rider's golden hair fluttered in the wind as he rode his horse, clutching the reins. His thoughts confused, because he didn't know what would happen if something happened to them. The figure in the darkness hurried forward. The forest light surrounded him, but his thoughts were focused on something else. His fear for his friend was palpable. He knew if something happened to her, it would be difficult to forgive himself. The duo sit on the ground, wet and exhausted, feeling the cold that penetrates to the bones. Thoughts wandering, they can freeze to death. They urgently need to find shelter. Nigel carried Melody in his arms, thinking about what was happening if this was someone's conspiracy. Then the danger was not only from the animals, but also from the people who could be behind all this. The hero looks at the stream, thinking that if he goes upstream, he will reach the camp. He was tormented by the thought that there might be an ambush ahead, and carrying his sister is extremely difficult. The redhead lay unconscious, and her face reflected fatigue. The guy thought about how much had happened, but the wreath on her head remained intact, as if nothing had happened. The man gently supports Melody, who can barely stand on her feet. He reminds her, with a slight smile, about how she asked him not to leave her, asking if he really seems so unreliable to her. The couple still manage to take shelter in the cave. The guy notices with relief that they are no longer in danger from the cold, and their clothes will soon dry. The red-haired girl is resting still weakened. Melody sleeps exhausted. After all the trials, she never woke up. Nigel reflects with interest on the fact that no one would have thought that she had such strength. He looks at her guarding the peace. The boy was completely amazed by Corbella's power. He had never seen anything like it. The wolf was defeated with one blow. The girl could hardly contain her emotions. After the wolf was defeated with one blow, everything else lost its meaning. The guy can't say anything else. He just continues to remain without comment. Melody always hid her power as a trump card for the future. She stood holding a glowing clod of energy in her hand, surrounded by a mysterious pattern, ready for the unexpected. The beauty is like a joker card. Her strength became what saved them both. Despite the risk, the man thinks that now everything is clear. Her actions were not accidental. Nigel reflects as he looks at Melody that she doesn't hate him. The discovery of this unexpected ally makes him think about the future and how she helped him survive. The girl's brother wants her to be only on his side. He believes that it will be easier for all of them, and then united they will be able to set out on great deeds. The shore was still wet, so Claire quickly found the place where the couple washed their scent off their clothes. Only one sign was not very encouraging. One of them could not move on his own, so it was unlikely that they went to the camp. Surely the royal family is hiding somewhere nearby. Raising his voice a little, the blonde begins to call loudly so that he can finally be heard, but there is still silence around. Finally, a scream is heard, coming from somewhere far away from a cave. The hero runs there as fast as he can, thinking about who suffered, and himself perfectly aware that it is Melody, the one who is unable to run. The redhead lies unconscious on the ground, her face pale enough to make one fear for her health, and her lips have completely lost their color, alas. But the captain freezes in shock at this sight. Kaiser falls to his knees and asks if everything is okay, as if he can't believe it. He screams, calling the princess by name and trying to somehow reach her. There is breathing, and that's good. The woman is alive and everything is fine. Claire is going to lift the lady, but the blonde with a sad look almost begs to do it for her. For some reason, next to this girl, a man every time feels like a real hero who has great significance. She is much lighter than it seemed initially. The heroine is barely breathing, so the guy asks Claire again how things are. In general, the body temperature has dropped significantly because the energy is trying to be saved so as not to leak anywhere. It will be much better once the redhead is warmed up. This is exactly what she needs most now. An ordinary person in her place would have no chance of salvation, but the princess is stronger. Turning around, the blonde runs into His Majesty. A shudder runs through his body because he completely forgot about Nigel, who also suffered a lot because of everything that happened. Without letting her say another word, the brunette promises that everything will be fine. He will take care of Corbella as needed, and in the end, everything will work out for the best. She will definitely get back on her feet. Calling several knights, the man asks them to accompany the crown prince, while he and the princess ride ahead. The girl still doesn't react at all. She can't open her eyes even through her clothes. She can feel her skin cold as ice, which feels even cooler. The horse rides calmly to the camp. The future emperor smiles slightly. The captain reacted too seriously to the conversation about the wedding, perhaps because of embarrassment. What was happening revealed even more interesting details than had appeared before. Kaiser had never been as excited in any fight as he was now. This says a lot. If only Queen Roche knew about what was happening, she would be beside herself with rage, because this does not suit her. She is trying to achieve a meeting between her daughter Daisy and the Duke with blood and sweat. Now it became clear why Deimos's participation in this golden wreath parade for the new year was necessary. Everything was thought out in advance and done to perfection. Claire is the first to enter the tent where the lady is. She comes out a second later, saying that she needs hot water, a towel, and a change of clothes to wrap herself up in. The two servants listen to every word because they truly want to help the beauty at the moment. This is their top priority. Then they are ordered to make a fire and prepare warm bed linen. Kaiser comes up from behind and asks the lady how Milady is doing. He no longer even hides his true excitement, which continues to consume him. The hero seems to know that the princess owns the flow. Her body is completely exhausted. The consequences could become irreversible if she stayed in that place a little longer. It was the captain himself who saved his future wife. There is no need to worry so much, because she is strong and will definitely cope. And this is not even discussed, because everyone believes in her strengths. Lucas comes out to His Majesty, and without saying anything, almost immediately falls at his feet, begging him to punish him for what happened in the sacred forest. If it weren't for Mr. Waddell, the two would never have been saved, because this is something unrealistic and impossible to obtain. No one could expect the negligence of the animals, and there is no one to blame for this. The red-haired man is ready to cry from how grateful he is to His Majesty. Now they can leave the incident in the past. The guy hands over the box and asks to keep the wreaths completely safe. Now it's Kaiser's time. The prince calls the captain, who immediately steps aside with him. The brunette sincerely asks him to hide the wolf attack that happened. It will only be for the best and will help them all. The future emperor wants everyone to pretend as if nothing happened. They will think that the ritual went as it should, without any problems. The wolves attacked because of the smell coming from Melody's robe. The whole point is precisely, in the holy robe, the animals tore the garment into small pieces, and the stand for the garment was burned almost immediately for a specific purpose. No one has any solid evidence to find the criminal, and as soon as the public finds out, the blame will fall on none other than Kaiser. He doesn't need such problems. The brunette was in great danger, and that's a completely different conversation. The hero really doesn't understand what will change if his friend is punished. He has no benefit from it, so saving his reputation will be the best solution. Melody is already recovering. The young man is also alive and well. The secret will be hidden so that nothing accidentally comes out. In the end, everything will be fine. The enemy's plans were also destroyed. Nothing else will interfere. A victory of sorts is counted before leaving. The prince asks to tell the knights to keep quiet and not blab to anyone. The blue-eyed one himself guessed that the death of the princess and the heir is someone's plan. They decided to kill them with the help of wolves, who were attracted by a special smell on the robes that were intended specifically for them. It could well have been Empress Roach, who had a grudge against them. The Duke was drawn into a power struggle he never wanted to get into. The woman wanted to destroy the enemy and set up the guy so that she could then save him and win him over to her side. And the worst thing was that his Melody was in danger. There are two people sitting in the Emperor's secret negotiating room. Urbash sips tea and frowns. The better he gets to know his interlocutor, the more surprising he becomes. The Waddell family owns vast lands second only to the imperial family, and it was this family that created the country, being there to raise every detail. The family's history is inextricably linked with the whole of Corbella. Whatever they do, they will always receive direct permission from the emperor, who will only support them in any endeavor. Henest Waddell, being the current head of the family, for some amazing reason, is completely uninterested in either politics or the outside world. He only did all the work on his estate. When the man was offered to build another building within the imperial palace, he refused as if he did not care at all. Any other noble would have jumped at the chance. But of course, Henest decided it wasn't for him, without specifying what exactly he was trying to achieve with his actions, leaving Urbash to wonder. According to multiple studies, the hero is interested only in his dear wife, Lan Luxello Waddell, who is the most beloved thing in this life. Usually, the hero works at home all the time, but as soon as the Duchess goes somewhere, he immediately follows her in order to observe from afar what she is doing and whether everything is going well. While the girl remains in the estate, Henest does not leave it at all, and he does not care what everyone else thinks about it, and even the king himself. In addition to all this information, the man hides his secret hobby, the anonymous purchase and collection of paintings of the Duchess. This is another thing in his life, and this is why they are extremely popular. A good portion of the nobles are smart, and they have already figured out how to get close to the Duke, who is so unsociable and does not communicate with more than a few people. In order to gain Henest's support, you should first talk to Mrs. Luxello and gain her sympathy, which will help in the implementation of your plans. At this dinner, the emperor begins the conversation by asking how the blonde is doing, and calmly responding. The Duke says that she went to present her new paintings. Even Urbash himself wanted to buy at least one piece of art. But there's always someone who takes it first. The red-haired man coughs, trying not to blush. The brunette, as always, has a new request. He understands that he can't demand everything at once, but he at least has to try, because Melody is special to him, and in this way, he wants to show her that he cares. The girl needs protection. No one in the entire empire will be a stronger shield than under Videl, who is so wonderful in all aspects. The baby even loves the captain. And this means even more, judging by the endless love that Hennest feels for his wife. Their son will obviously grow up to be exactly the same, yet gathering his thoughts and strength. The hero says that he wants Kaiser to marry the princess. Surely the red-haired man already knows that Empress Roach wants to marry her daughter Daisy to Weddle, thus bringing her plans to reality. There is just one caveat. Deimos is forbidden to be allowed near the throne. Unfortunately, Urbush knows how difficult it can be to refuse the Valhalla family, but there is simply no other choice. Now it's about the most insane flower of the empire. She didn't want to go to Azen, so she started rumors that she was out of her mind, hoping that it would work. This is not just the father's boasting, but the truth. The heroine is the kindest and purest girl that I have ever met in this life. She is different from others. The man can guarantee that the offer is truly beneficial to the Vadel family. The silence drags on. The Duke still hasn't said a word. So it's time to use the secret method. Kaiser has known the girl for a long time. They say that he personally teaches her fencing. It seems that the guy did not say anything, but he was the person who suggested such lessons. Sons are always secretive. If Hennest had a daughter, he would have understood everything, because they told their fathers even the most insignificant things, which they would always be happy to convey in emotions. In any case, His Majesty asks to speak with the Duchess about concluding a contract. Between the children, the red-haired man promises restrainedly and nods his head. Urbush promises that he will wait for an answer, but after that, he starts coughing. The cup falls and breaks into pieces with a crash, and in a hoarse voice, the old man asks to call the butler. The servant brought with him some pills, which the brunette drank, after which he finally relaxed. The Duke realized that it looked like a heart defect, like the previous emperor who died from it. Trying not to stutter, Videl asks, "Since when his friend started getting sick, there is no need to worry. He will recover soon, because it is still too early to die." The brunette tries to be as positive as possible. A female voice thanks Her Highness for the valuable tea she gave her, and says that it is a pleasure to be present at such an important meeting. Roach smiles. It's just a gift in honor of the friendship that seems to have already begun to develop. It's a pity that they couldn't meet earlier because of the Duchess's work. There is no need to think about other things today. The girl called a friend because her dear daughter is sick. Usually she is quite modest and does not ask for anything. But now everything has changed. The wish that the girl expressed was to marry Kaiser. She no longer wants anything else, because she has loved the man for many years. The marriage of imperial persons cannot be decided so easily, and the lady even told her daughter this, but the girl's condition is getting worse and worse. Not as an empress, but as a mother, Roche sincerely asked the Duchess to give her consent to the children's wedding and to support their endeavors. And the couple. The blonde promises that everything will be discussed with the Duke, and thus they will agree on something which will be just the right option. Deimos is angry. He doesn't understand how Nigel dared to kick him out, but there will be good news very soon. A servant enters the room, and just from looking at him, accidentally drops the tray, because he is scared. A smile appears on his face. This is exactly how it should be. The young man understands that fear is strength and this is power. Claire heads back to the lady's tent again, with her things in her hands. The cold air comes from the ground. It would be nice to put a heating pad on it. Two people come up and ask what condition the princess is in. She didn't look very well, so maybe some help is needed. The duo promise to bring more hot water bottles. They are always happy to help those who need it most. The blonde can't contain the sincere feelings that are hidden inside her, from how pleasant it is for her to take care of the baby. The knights also came to check on the princess's condition. It turned out that she was not seriously injured, but was already recovering. Returning to the tent, the blonde sits down next to her, before everyone thought Melody was crazy, and this was very oppressive. Finally, the dreams came true, because people around them started recognizing the ladies in their circles, saying that they wanted to help and care. With her flow, Claire is going to help her friend recover. It will strengthen her weakened body, and she really does look much better. His Majesty asks permission to enter. Melody has already warmed up, is now recovering. There were no serious injuries, and this is good. Next in line was, of course, Kaiser Vadel. which was to be expected given how much he continued to worry. His breathing has stabilized. The young man reaches his hand to his face to make sure once again that the girl is really completely okay. This is important to him. Standing up, the blonde blushes. He's about to leave, because he is unlikely to help if he sits in one place. Quietly muttering, Claire asks the princess to wake up quickly. It seems that everyone is already tired of waiting for her. She can't leave them without news of improvements. Deimos woke up first thing to ask for news from the gorge. When it turned out that nothing was clear, he almost attacked the servant, not holding back the outbursts of anger. The hero hopes that the plan worked. All that is clear is that the princess was tired, so they brought a carriage. Nigel has already returned here. Noticing the expression on his brother's face, the hero chuckles. He doesn't know why Corbella is so surprised, but it seems he was clearly not expecting his subjects and family. Deciding not to dwell on one thing, the heir frowns, asking what the man is doing in this place after the order was given to return to the palace. The brunette will assume that the man is too tired and therefore disobeyed, because for now this is the only reasonable option. The knights are already starting to whisper, because they know how their captain behaves. Kaiser went to Melody again, as if nothing had happened, because he was worried. Nigel asks Lucas to make the Duke worry less about his youngest. He didn't expect the man to be so caring. The blonde once again asks questions about the condition of the future bride. The girl still hasn't come to her senses. Obviously, she needs a little more rest. While the rest of the soldiers ran away to avoid looking suspicious, the brunette approaches to ask why the hero is so worried about the princess's condition. As the captain of the guard, the guy is obliged to take care of Her Majesty without listening. Nigel casually says that he can send his sister an engagement proposal. The next morning, news spread through aristocratic circles that the princess had been proposed to by Count Tagaram's second son. The man had already been seen at the reception. He was quite kind, gentle, and still attractive like a flower just opening. Despite his age, the young man holds an important position in the Ministry of Finance. No one understands why such a person would propose to a crazy flower. The Duchess is angry. She already heard that Ash proposed to Melody. It is clear that this is most likely the work of the Empress, no one else. It doesn't matter that while Matilda is not in the capital, Roche is still trying to end everything, which she is not doing very well so far. The blonde doesn't understand what to do. Perhaps refuse the royal family, both at once. Luxello shouts for her husband, not only to remain silent. The redhead finally opens his mouth. He himself can't imagine that something like this could happen. Simply refusing them, because the girl doesn't want to get involved in politics, is not a reason. The whole problem is different. When the queen received the Duchess, she said that Daisy didn't ask for anything in particular because she was a quiet mouse. Such a soft lady who asks for nothing cannot become a good wife, and certainly will not grow up to be a happy person. All the heroine wants is for their son to marry a bright and happy girl who will bring joy and madness into their relationship. It doesn't matter whose side the future bride will be. On the main thing is that they will spend their whole lives together. The woman hardly knows Melody, so it's a little difficult to decide. Since Hennist has already met the girl, he says that at first glance, the heroine is full of strength to the limit and is ready to do anything for her own. To all these qualities, it is worth adding that the baby is extremely smart. It is in her blood, according to the Duchess. This is a huge plus. His Majesty said that Kaiser and the princess already know each other personally. He often visits the palace, and his son also gives private fencing lessons. Now it dawned on those gathered that the cookies that day were specifically for Melody, and the bag was chosen to make this gift. As far as my husband knows, he only knows about fencing so far, but nothing more. There is no point in judging based only on this. The man bears the entire policy of the empire on his shoulders, but he still cannot understand the little things that seem to be hidden right under his nose. Now, when the lady starts to get angry, she again reminds that they have at least 2 clues she accidentally missed the education of her own son. It's all like Hennist, whose first gift was a cake. The lady wanted a blue diamond necklace, and he didn't even realize it. The first thing the married couple simply has to do is talk to Kaiser, but in any case, he will be the one to decide. Roche is told that His Highness has returned to the palace. The heir has not disappeared, but has brought the very golden wreath they were heading for. The princess has also already returned, but in a carriage, and Mr. Deimos, as they said, is slightly delayed in the forest. The specific reason is unknown. Everyone was useless. No one except the Tagaram clan proposed to Melody, leaving no options. There is no news from the Weddle family, yet they are keeping quiet, or are simply trying to decide which scenario would suit her best. The plan in the gorge also failed. This cannot but disappoint the girl. Asks where her brother is. He has a personal meeting with Prince Kaizen. If the Count had spent at least some of the effort he had put into this man, into Deimos, things could have turned out much better. Kaizen is the youngest of the 3 sons of the Urbash clan. He is 24 years old, an unsociable youth, the complete opposite of his brother, with an explosive character. The hero is not only much calmer, but also smart beyond his years. Valhalla closes the book and smiles, because he is pleased with the results. The boy delved deeper into the material than his uncle asked, and this cannot but please him, because the results will be better. Bowing his head, the boy thanks. In fact, all this is small stuff compared to what he has already been taught over the past time. The young man is extremely talented and wise, even if he himself does not understand it. Her Majesty is stingy with compliments. There is no need to take this to heart. The blonde thinks that he is simply a replacement for his older brother. But the old man sharply replies that this will never be true. One day, the young man's hour will come, but for now they will prepare together and wait for the right moment. Kaizen must remember, there is no one else in this world who is more like the Count than he is, and therefore support will always be provided. As soon as the man entered the office, he was met with shouts. The woman was angry because her brother did not fulfill his promise. All plans were ruined. Unfortunately, nothing can be changed, but it still makes me angry and is important. The hero has already gotten rid of all the evidence. It seems that Prince Nigel has incredible fencing skills. He was with the princess and was able to save both. All this was brought to Kaiser's attention, so there was nothing more to worry about. The words flew out with cold calm. Deimos is late, and the heir is trying to make the boy look like a complete fool. It is definitely his order to abandon the brunette in the forest. The blonde tries to contain his sincere anger. If Valhalla had at least one more daughter, the man would never allow Roche to become the queen of the country. They only have her, but they can't stand it anymore. Getting up from his seat, the young man says that he has endured a lot, but this can't go on any longer, so she should listen carefully. Deimos will never be a competitor to Nigel, because they are very different in the type of professionals they are. The woman is sure that her brother will not dare to do something like that, but he has already made his verdict. No matter what the beauty says, he will still be no match for the heir. Even when Empress Matilda and her son were not there, the hero still tried to help them. But in the end, it turned out that nothing worked out. The refusal of the Tagaram and Vidal families is only because everyone is sure that the lady's son is not worthy. Only Nigel will be able to become a good emperor. The blonde can't take it anymore and jumps up trying to hold back her tears. If the man had spent at least half the effort he put into Kaizen, everything would have been different. Everyone knows that the brunette has always been a gifted boy. The old man lowers his voice. It seems to them that they need to speak honestly. Even the queen would not be able to restrain Deimos if he became emperor. Valhalla would answer for his sister. No one would hold him back, and eventually disaster would happen. Supporting an uncontrollable creature is not in the field of goals of the Count, who had spent years building his reputation. When the guy is about to leave, Roche coldly explains the reason why she always disliked Kaizen. He has the same look as her brother. The man who has been looking at her since childhood, and the father who does the same, have the same views, and this includes the boy that the lady gave birth to. Listening to all this, the hero becomes even more angry. The Valhalla family will officially no longer provide assistance to the girl because she does not deserve it. Even if Roche had received Duke Waddell himself as a son-in-law, Deimos would not have benefited from it because nothing happens for free. Because of mother's ambitions, only poor Daisy suffered. The Kaiser family benefits from getting closer to the Crown Prince's allies. They will almost certainly choose Melody. The lady screams furiously that the man doesn't understand anything at all, and she really thinks that's true. She screams as soon as the door closes because she realizes that she's failed. The heir's delegation arrived back. The whole family gathered. But Roche never came, citing the fact that she definitely didn't need it. It's unlikely that the lady liked that the plans with Demos and Daisy went to ruin. It's disappointing, according to etiquette. The princess should get out of the carriage. There will be a lot of problems with this, because Melody is still unconscious. 2 days have passed since they arrived in the capital. For some reason, the doctor cannot say why the girl did not wake up. She is absolutely healthy, but there are several nuances. The best solution is to go back, because there are no other options. The man quietly lowers his voice and orders the carriage to be taken to the palace. The girl opens her eyes and jumps up abruptly. Claire, sitting next to her, smiles, greeting her friend, and glad that she has finally woken up. The heroine herself must understand how much energy she spent, and in this regard, everything is clear because she has almost nothing left. Of course, stopping living creatures with a flow, like with wolves, was a dangerous thing, but there was still no choice. It was lucky that Nigel didn't abandon his sister in that forest. Otherwise, things would have been very bad. The man often came to visit when she was unconscious. It's not about the flow, but about how they found the duo in the first place. Sir Vidal was the one who went looking. As soon as Claire told about the danger, he immediately rushed after his friend. The blonde looked too worried at the moment and did not understand what was wrong and what he should do. The crown prince found a cave where they took refuge, and Kaiser carried the girl in his arms all the way to the camp, refusing any help because he was the most worried of all. His Majesty came out to meet the carriage, and his son standing surrounded by Daisy and Kaizen. It seems the rest are going for a walk after this meeting. A phrase is heard, or rather an order to take the carriage as far away as possible. The lady realized that it was Nigel's voice. They decided to remove it so as not to attract attention. The blonde thinks that it would be better to stay in the carriage in case the redhead has not yet fully recovered, and it really is better for her to lie down, but this cannot be done. The matter must be completed. The princess takes the beautiful robe that the maid gave her to put on before going out. The anticipation alone has the weight of 1,000 other feelings. If pressure could be described only as the force of attraction between two loving hearts, Melody's bright, healthy face makes Kaiser smile. Feeling as if her heart stopped for a second, not allowing other feelings to break through the beauty waves, her hand greeting her friend. It seems to be the lady's magic, because the hero wants to see only himself in her eyes and be close to her as much as possible. Nigel himself comes forward and also congratulates the beauty on her awakening, and he offers to go with him. He needs to let go of the beauty's hand, but the man can't. His body feels lighter, and both of them have this feeling they feel what's in the air. The girl has been through a lot. It is worth being glad that now it is all behind her. They coped together with His Majesty and did everything they could. Kaiser returned home. Mom is glad that he is not injured and that everything ended quite well without any problems. Everyone remained alive. The mother wants to talk, but notices that the boy is too tired. Waving it off, the hero suggests getting to the point now, so as not to put it off. Sitting down next to his father, the young man silently greets him. With such actions, he will never become a good husband. While the guy was away, something happened. His Majesty wants to marry Kaiser to Melody and Roche. To Daisy, there are two options. Each person asked for it personally, but weddings are a personal choice for each person, and parents let their son make the choice. The blonde seems to understand everything, and his eyes switch to something else. Luxello assumes that the boy loves someone else. That's why he acts like this. One can guess why the mother thought so, but it doesn't work that way. It's a little different, and that's why the man shakes his head. The blonde heard that Vidal became the princess's personal teacher. They learn fencing several times a week. It seems that the girl really liked that cookie. After such words, the young man blushes. He doesn't even have anything to say. The lady might have made a mistake with someone else, but a boy will never fool the one who actually raised him. The baby had made a similar expression on his face since childhood, when he was scolded. Now everything remained exactly the same, showing that child. A wedding is a very important event that affects the whole life, because at the moment of choice, a person makes an important act, connecting himself with another. The person who will be on the man's side will stay by his side for life. These are not the parents who are nearby, and not even the children. The wife is different from each criterion. Kaiser understands that his mother will always worry about him, just as she will worry about his happiness, but she cannot choose for him. For the sake of her child's happiness, Luxello will not be afraid of either the king or the queen. They will not do anything, even if they are refused point blank. There is no need to think about politics, or about a family name or empire. The guy will choose his future life partner and should be happy after a thoughtful decision. It is better to give an answer. It is important to remember that Kaiser is backed not only by the Vedel family, but also by the Luxellos. Each member of the family is ready to help with anything going beyond themselves. The choice will be protected by the parents, no matter what the consequences. The blonde promises that he will think about it and then answer. He must know that Her Majesty wants to marry Melody off as soon as possible. Being late could cost love its life. Trying not to blush again, the hero quietly asks how many people propose engagement to Milady under such conditions. The boy pretends too unconvincingly that he doesn't care. Unfortunately, his mother knows him better than that, so she decides to tell the truth. Officially, only one proposal is known apparently from the Tagaram clan, where it was not a simple letter with a request, but something more. The Count's second son, Ash, came to Urbash himself with a personal request. He said that, with all his heart, he wanted to become the husband of Princess Corbella. The hero's mood immediately dropped. He looks with a heavy gaze. Luxello smiles, noting that the act was quite brave. A servant knocks on the door of the room, announcing that Her Majesty has arrived. She enters, not understanding why the man does not answer. It is too dark inside. The brunette sees her son sitting at the table with a glass of drink. The mother asks worriedly what happened and why she was not answered. Throwing his glass back sharply and almost hitting the queen, the man asks why she always does this. She promised that everything would work out, but in the end, it wasn't true. Because of Roche, the boy was disgraced, and he does not want to hear anything about it at all, because he is not interested at all. He asks to leave. Lying in bed, Kaiser thinks about the red-haired girl. Life depends only on themselves, on each person. The girl wants freedom, so she hid the flow from everyone else. A free princess with turquoise eyes. Melody is more of a soul who wants a free life on the big land. A man wants to help her live the way she wants, and wants to be there. Claire, scolding her ward, believes that what happened was dangerous, since the baby spent all the energy flow she could even die. No matter what the girl's ancestors are, she still has to be extremely careful. She has no right to do so. Another maid runs into the room. It seems the beauty doesn't know yet, but it turns out that she has received an engagement proposal. While the girl was away from the palace, the Count's second son, Ash Tagaram, was the one who sent the proposal and came to His Highness the King. The girl does not understand. On the paper that the Empress gave, there was the name of Baroda, the eldest son of the family, but for some reason, his brother replaced him. The girl remembers seeing Ash at a meeting she attended. The man looked young and was an assistant to the Minister of Finance. The boy came repeatedly, not only to Urbash. He found out the beauty's favorite food, as well as her favorite jewelry and everything else. Perhaps Tagaram will arrive even today. And indeed, a carriage appeared under the windows, falling onto the sofa. The lady snorts. This guy is strange. Since the maid is so happy about this, the princess is ready to put up with the romance that everyone sees in this man. The blonde also arrived at Her Majesty's palace, standing not far from the entrance. The Duke wonders whether she has woken up or is still resting. The captain is called to look to the side because Ash is standing there. The knight did not think that he would propose before his brother's wedding. A smiling face, radiating a warm aura, and a neat appearance will please anyone smiling. Even at Vedel, the man greets him. A pleasant voice and good manners can be seen. As soon as he opens his mouth, it is not easy for the second son from a weak family to become an assistant to the Minister of Finance and earn such a reputation. When the Duke's subordinate asks the Count why he made the proposal, he blushes his face, showing that it was not done at Roche's request. It seemed that the brunette hadn't said anything before, but he liked one girl, and it was Melody. If the guy had waited just a little longer, she would have become his brother's wife. The acquaintance asks in surprise how it was possible to fall in love with her. The girl is like a ray of sunshine that warms everyone else, and people who don't pay attention, of course, won't understand this. The blonde wonders if Ash received a warm welcome from the princess, his heart pounding loudly, just from the fact that he was in her palace and talkings. The Duke is about to leave early, but Robel doesn't understand what the problem is. In his memory, this is the first time something like this has happened. The guy needs to do something before the engagement turns into a wedding. He has little chance to do anything to prevent it. It is not clear what options are left. The guy remembers how the girl asked him to marry her, and he turned away, thinking it was a joke. Rejecting marriage was a terrible mistake, because now Tagaram is the one who really did it. She will definitely choose him as. They don't even have any memories in common with the princess, and that's really sad. There's no head start against Ash. Nothing can be done. For the red-haired girl, an acquaintance can be one of the most unimportant people, and only he feels all this. The touch of the hand that he held in that rainy alley where the world stopped was something unusual. Even when the heroine was sincere, the guy did not consider it something unusual. The Count said that Corbella was like a ray of light, which meant that she warmed him. The Minister of Finance walks hand in hand with the future queen, and Caesar is just a swordsman who cannot explain his feelings. Surely Ash knows how to choose the words when taking a piece of paper. Waddell remembers how his mother asked him to write a letter in his own words. The blonde wanted to be the first to confess to his friend. The only thing he wants now is to take a seat next to hers. Kaiser had been like Hennest since childhood, especially with his indifferent face, as if he was busy with other thoughts. After the man became a swordmaster, the expression changed to a more majestic one, but was not much different from before. The boy remained calm, as if removed from the whole world, but even with this, he would remain the best groom of the Corbel Empire. Urbash did not know that an acquaintance would personally bring a letter with a wedding proposal. Surprisingly, it was not a duke or duchess. Not only is there a second son Tagaram, but now there is also Kaiser. Melody has a real harem. The emperor smiles as he opens the envelope. It seems that such a face can be seen for the first time. It is probably the expression of a father, and not a simple ruler of the country. The guy is asked why he wants to get married. It is better to speak carefully. He really didn't like that Ash was getting married, so he immediately ran to His Majesty. You can't answer like that. Blue Eyes seems to be a little nervous. He doesn't understand what exactly made him want to be a part of the princess's life. When the lady took the sword in her hands, her eyes shone with a bright blue color. She was happy that she could ride freely and be free. The Duke wanted to do what the beauty liked, being close to her and making her completely happy. I wish I had the talent to speak more convincingly, because it seems like the words that come out of my mouth don't work at all. Urbash nods. We must not forget that the man is going to share with Melody not only his hobbies, but also family life and love. After the conversation, the Duke leaves bright blue rough eyes, when in the hands of a sword, a man who is pleased with freedom, accurate as Jabril. Urbash understood the phrase, do with her what she likes. Everything in the girl's life, even her death, was only after the emperor. Out of greed, the ruler imprisoned the one he was most proud of, and was unable to be there to protect hers. Jabril suggested naming the baby Melody, even though she said that naming daughters after flowers is not the right thing to do. The blonde suddenly liked this name in honor of the melody, because this way the child will have no duty, no mission, no burden on her shoulders. Either she will be able to live as easily as each line, each chorus. Those words sounded like a hidden condemnation of Urbash for locking his wife in the palace to hide from the whole world. The name Jabril was disgusting to the man. It was pain, longing, and regret about what happened in the past. The young man sincerely hopes that Melody will live the way the lady wanted. He is ashamed and does not understand what to do. The emperor asks to call Daisy, looking at the powerless emperor. He repeated to himself over and over again that he wanted to be the one who would look down from the top. The young man wanted to become an emperor who would be respected, so he accepted 2 empresses. Bovin, with a deep history and fighting spirit, was the first. There was also Valhalla, which had the greatest financial power in the empire. Since Urbash became emperor, the cleansing of common enemies went without problems. When the king's enemies were gone, everyone began to hate each other, almost devouring each other. Then the boy met Jabril, a ray of sunshine. The butler distracts from deep thoughts. Princess Daisy has arrived, as ordered. She is asked to come and sit down. The first thing they ask the girl is if anything hurts. For some reason, everyone notices how thin she has become in recent weeks. Brushing it off, the girl insists that it is because of sleep problems, changing the subject. The father asks if she wants to marry Kaiser. When the little girl answers yes, she says it clearly and quickly, without any embarrassment or hesitation, like a doll with pre-prepared lines. It is clear what pressure Roche exerted. but it is not clear why the emperor did not intervene. It was all connected precisely with power. First of all, a man is not a king, but a father. He begins to understand how simple-minded, low, and vile he is. This is the truth. As it turned out, Videl proposed to Melody, and from these words, the beauty freezes in horror and almost cries. The girl had heard since childhood that she had to make the swordmaster fall in love with her. She had to become even more beautiful. The beauty was told that for the sake of her and the Valhalla family's good, she was obliged to do everything possible, and now that failure had befallen her, a real hysteria began. From a young age, the heroine did not feel a drop of love. She was only told to love Kaiser and taught how to win him over in different ways. Daisy did only what her mother ordered her to do, but she got no results. The hero remained constantly cold, not knowing love. Corbella knew that she had to cope, even if it was dishonest. Only with Caesar's help could she become useful to her mother and the whole family. The man asks, not to be afraid. No one will blame his daughter for doing something, because she did nothing wrong. The girl will think about what she wants to do herself. You can't decide for her how to live her life and what kind of future to provide for herself. If someone dares to reproach his daughter for failure, he, as Urbash, the ruler of the country, will not sit idly by. The girl goes out and can't get it out of her head. She can't believe that she could have not married Kaiser and lived her own life, unconsciously begging for love. The heroine herself did not notice how she lowered herself and her dignity below the baseboard. For some reason, when a lady thinks about what she would like, the first thing that comes to mind is some delicious fatty cake, which seems like the ideal option. Daisy eats only once a day. Bad breath and weakness during the day have become commonplace. The heroine gave up a lot just to get Kaiser's love. It turned out that she didn't even need to marry him. The girl met the Duke and immediately asked him if he would have married her if he had not started dating Melody. The answer is simple, and it is no. The reason is not even that the lady has gained weight. She is already too thin. Now everything became clear. Daisy thanks for the answer and says goodbye. Now they say goodbye forever. It was not love. The girl never left first, but for the first time, she did not extract answers from the man and did not try to win his attention. Kaiser doesn't like the heroine. The girl easily and quickly believed her mother's words, and this seems strange and crazy. Roach came to check on her daughter. She is fragile and probably took the news about the marriage very badly. There is still hope that she did not faint. The girl sits in the room and calmly eats all sorts of sweets. Without the corset, she will fit much more than with it, and thus it will become easier to breathe. The truly important happiness was hidden in small things. At this moment, the mother enters the room, who does not understand what is happening. The little girl wanted a little praise from the empress, so she did everything she asked from childhood. In return, the lady received one compliment, but it was not enough, and even that was rare. It was not clear what was wrong this time, and why she was met with such a look. The mother yells at her daughter, asking why she ate so much without permission, pretending that nothing happened. Such antics are unforgivable. The girl eats non-stop, but no matter how much she does it, nothing helps, because the hunger remains deep inside the stomach. Daisy never argued, and now she began to almost scream. Roche thinks it was just from the shock of the news of the marriage. The woman begins to question, and then scream about how the Duke could propose to Melody, who has clearly gone mad. No more trying to charm a man, so at least you can eat in peace without the guilt that comes over you. The girl should be offended or angry that the princess took away her groom, but these feelings are not even close. No longer needing to hold back her tears, the heroine says that she asked the Duke directly whether he would have married if it weren't for Corbella. In the end, the blonde said that the only truth was that he wouldn't have done anything even if there had been another person nearby. The woman also screams. The fool looks down on the Valhalla family and Deimos. He will never be forgiven for this. They were always more important than Daisy herself. She had accepted this long ago. But that didn't mean that she wasn't offended at all. Something still remained inside. Gathering her strength into a fist, the girl says that she will not marry a man and is not going to beg for his love. This is more than stupid. There is no other way to describe what is happening. Unfortunately, this is the truth that he managed to earn. He himself said that the beauty is too thin. In front of the empress is not the daughter she knows, so she promises that she will eat as much as she wants. Mother always wanted the girl to simply be beautiful, She always wanted to ask one important question that came to mind. What was frozen on her lips will finally be said out loud. The redhead hopes that her value is not just in her beauty. It seemed like the world would collapse if the lady saw a look that was completely different, but everything turned out to be much better than it seemed. The man gathered his family in the living room today. He personally brought His Majesty a request for a wedding, of course, with Princess Melody. Hannist asks if the son knows the lady well, but he only greeted her. For him, even this way will do. Luxello is angry if you marry everyone you greet. You could marry any passerby. The blonde leaves her husband alone and turns to her son, asking if he himself knows Melody. But as it turns out, she hasn't been told yet. The girl is tired from the road and probably isn't seeing anyone yet. The guy can't say that he was in a hurry. It is imperative to talk to the future wife, and not just as it happened. The young man promises that he will propose with all his heart. The husband behaved exactly like Hennist, so it was impossible to ask his father to teach him. The guy says goodbye and promises that everything will be fine. Luxello is still worried because he shouldn't go without flowers like the Duke did. The girl is too worried, but this happened because of the marriage proposal that her husband once made to her. It is difficult to advise an already grown man. 2 months have passed since Matilda left for Azen to attend Princess Rose's wedding. The woman planned everything for a year in advance in order to leave Corbella and try to help the girl adapt to the new realities of life. It turned out that the brunette had returned. It was quite sudden, and no one even expected it. Nigel was the first to come to her. Bovin didn't send the message, since it seemed there was no point in doing so a few days before returning back. While the woman's hair was turning gray, Rose and Nigel had grown up completely. She hadn't realized it until now. Mother talks about the gift that Crown Prince Eisen gave to his future wife. As it turned out, it was a horse. The little girl said she always wanted to do something like this. Put on pants and ride until she was out of breath. Hair flutters, and now you can breathe freely. Rose always wanted to be free, without experiencing restrictions and sadness. Matilda smiles weakly. She hasn't seen her daughter's face so happy, so full of life for a long time. Rose will live happily doing what she loves, and not suffering a day in her life. If her daughter had not been happy, Bovin would hardly have survived it. The girl started talking about her own things, so she asks the man how things are. The brunette heard that the heir took Melody and Demos to the golden wreath ceremony. She hopes it wasn't hard. Smiling, the guy waves it off. Nothing happened, because it was only thanks to his sister that it was as easy as pie. Kaiser sent a letter with a proposal of marriage. His Majesty has not yet announced the event. But it is true. The man asks his mother to help arrange their wedding as soon as possible. He would like to hold the ceremony at the end of the New Year celebration. The girl turns away. She probably thinks that Corbella Jr. is to blame for the fact that Rose was unable to marry Weddell. For some reason, the same question that my daughter asked not long ago, trying to understand her true feelings, pops into my head. Brother and sister have the same way of thinking. Frowning Bovin does not understand what is being said because he knew that the brunette did not intend to become a wife. Nigel agreed. The girl kept saying that she didn't want to marry the captain and always reminded him of her ambitions. Matilda would not tolerate it if the Duke refused returning to the topic. The hero again asks for help with the event. Tagaram's second son also proposed and is known to be an assistant to the Minister of Finance in the Empire. The man remembers what happened. The investigation into Melody Corbella's case was completed within 1 day. Surprisingly, nothing was found. There is no information about her flow at all, and there are not even records about her mother, Madame Gibrilo. The rest is unknown, but it is clear that everything connected with the blonde was erased personally by the Emperor. Nigel has no idea why Melody didn't go to Azen, barged in mid-meeting, and was constantly insulted by Demos. There is a reason why the girl is called Crazy Flower, but on the other hand, it's all too mysterious. The princess lies and stares at the ceiling when Claire announces her brother's desire to meet for tea. The worries begin. It seems that the guy came just to threaten, after everything that happened to them in the forest. The brunette doesn't understand why Melody's palace is in such a state, and why she won't move but will stay here. Fresh flowers having absorbed water bloom, white cotton curtains with a pleasant aroma, and a wooden table are still the same, looking well-groomed and neat. There are almost no luxury items in the estate. You can't even say that this is one of the royal castles. The hostess herself enters the room and greets her brother, who bows politely in response, saying the same words in response. The friendly greeting seems odd. They haven't spoken for 20 years, and now it seems the prince is trying to change their minds. The first thing the girl asks is if her friend has had breakfast, and he nods. In fact, he came to find out if everything is okay and how things are going in general. When the atmosphere similar to a light spring breeze disappears, the heroine seems to become a completely different person. Apparently, the true essence of the beauty is the girl who cut the necks of the wolves to save herself. The hero wanted to say thank you, because if it weren't for his sister, he would have definitely died. He is ready to thank as much as necessary. The next question is more interesting. The man wanted to know if there was any point in hiding information about the flow. This kind of power is a precious gift of the Empire that needs to be revealed. For some reason, Corbella felt scared. The redhead was afraid of losing even those crumbs of freedom that she had. It seems she is hinting at what happened to her mother a long time ago. It is too contradictory that girls having lived their entire lives in the Imperial Palace cannot miss balls that they do not want to go to. Also, the heroine does not have the right to go outside the palace at will when she has free time. The princess is only pointed at because of the trousers she wears. For comfort flow is an innate ability. It is unclear what will happen once everyone finds out that the beauty can control her powers and time with the help of the power given to her at birth. Melody is afraid of becoming a golden opportunity for those who want power and afraid of becoming a necessary weapon for those who crave strength. If someone finds out and forces the beauty to do something, most likely, she will not be able to maintain her freedom and refuse the offers. The brunette nods, but also asks something else. He wants to know if he looks truly free in his sister's eyes. Nigel was always one step ahead of everyone else, always at the emperor's side at every banquet, while the blue-eyed one watched only from afar. The girl thinks about everything that has happened recently. She cannot give a direct answer to the question asked. She remembers how her father apologized to Melody. The man does not understand why the heroine did not want an arranged marriage. She said that in the Empire, one cannot be free, so then logically there is no point in staying. This is the limit the lady still tried to stay close to her father, but realized that even this would not help her refuse the marriage. The heroine decided to choose the groom that both empresses were aiming for. She decided that this would be the easiest way. There is no sense or logic in the reason to stay on this earth, like an immature child who wants a toy. The girl fell for it. The redhead is naive and simple. She has one goal, and it is not clear even to herself the prince will not reproach. So he asks to answer honestly. Blue-eyed insists that she simply didn't want to go anywhere. And as he gets up, Nigel says the important words that are mandatory for the Corbella family. The line should be in the hearts of every family member. They got power without much effort, not realizing how lucky they were. Instead of working on the land with sweat and blood, and instead of sewing clothes with their own hands, they sit in a castle. The hero always wanted to escape, if only he could climb over a high wall. It would even be nice to become a small bird flying away to freedom. After the war, the man cast aside all thoughts hell in which there are those who want to destroy everything. Soldiers fought to protect their country. There were different people around comrades who helped each other, and brothers, one of whom protected the other from a sword strike. The country's soil is soaked in blood and sweat almost to the core. The men who gave their lives to defend the name of Corbel did not do so for nothing. The man asks what his girlfriend did with the name on her back. He understands how hard it is. Of course, Nigel has been neglecting his friend for most of this time, but now he asks to unite. The best solution is to be together and make Corbella a stronger country than ever before. There are only two ways to protect the powers a lady has. The first is to hide them as before. The best option is to become so strong that no one can control her, even if they really want to. It's time to step outside your shell into this world and become stronger than before by helping other people. The brunette continues to stare, asking if he will be made to wait any longer before making a decision. The brother extended his hand, and they shook it. For some reason, the lady doesn't let go. She is so strong that it is impossible to break free. Wiping away her tears, the redhead notes that since the guy talked a lot, it was time to listen so he would have time to think. The princess has options on how to fulfill her royal duty, and she is well aware of them. For some reason, everyone only talks about one thing, And that is the wedding and the wedding, every time the same thing as if there is nothing else. Marriage is the only duty of a beauty. It was never the real desire that lurks in the heart. As soon as a lady appears at a meeting of officials, it is called an impudent intrusion and a violation of the rules. There is no talk of debt. There are no options left, because the princess is literally forbidden. Everything you can't even get out of the carriage when you leave the palace. If everyone ignores her, then a barrage of questions and criticism will fall upon her, and there is nothing to even say about what the girl has done for the country. The heroine will get married, but this will only expand the opportunities of her husband, the only value in her life. If Nigel were in the same situation, he would definitely be angry. He would be annoyed. He would feel locked in a cage. The guy was interested to know the real reason why his sister didn't tell anyone about the flow. Now he will find out everything. There is no one in the castle that the little girl trusts, and there is nothing that could save her if someone found out about her abilities. Now already starting to cry her eyes out. The girl says that the guy is no different from everyone else in his desire for power. As soon as he learned about the stream, the heir immediately came to the palace, the way to which he had not known for 20 years. The brunette didn't think that the girl would be so angry. He doesn't know what to say about this in her eyes. Nigel is the same as Demos. They decided to marry the princess to the right person and use her power as they wish, regardless of preferences. The hero cannot prove that all this is for the sake of the country and cannot say that she has a duty to the country. She doesn't like that the man came with such intentions, but it's still better than Demos. She asks directly what his intentions are. The one the lady saw at the meeting was a little different, and for now there was complete silence in the room. A cool and reasonable man, whose actions show that he cares about the future of the country, that's him. The brunette will become the emperor. He does not have all his thoughts about Corbel, because in fact everyone has selfish goals. After Bovin left, Claire asked the princess whether he should have been driven away or not. She herself did not understand what happened. The speech was so beautiful that the maid almost applauded standing up, but the beauty didn't think so. She burst into tears in front of her smart brother. The words about using force for the country and for improving qualities stuck in her head. Now it's a new idea. The desire to do something for Corbella and for the Abub clan exceeds the rational thoughts remaining in my head. A whole cup of sweet poison standing before one's nose could well drown out the bitterness in one's heart. If Miss had let her guard down, she would have given everything to her skilled brother. It might have looked better than it sounded. First of all, the lady asked not to interfere in her marriage. Be it Kaiser or Ash, nothing can be done. Nodding, the brunette promises that he will not interfere. He is more interested in the country than the girl herself. The redhead is not going to discuss using the flow for the sake of the country. The honor will only go to the emperor, and he is only the crown prince. All Nigel has to do is prove himself worthy of becoming a ruler, and his sister's actions will be guided by his own desires. The ending was good, but the middle was a bit smeared with sentimentality. The heroine can't do anything about her character. The girl asks if Claire wants to go back. Her mother's request was sudden, and too much time has passed. The blonde can't believe that the little girl still remembers everything she asks to forget about what happened. Fortunately, this will never be forgotten, the day when the child went outside the palace with his mother. The brother asked why the sister was hiding the flow, and then asked her to try to become stronger to help herself. Still, the hero is quite smart. There is no arguing with that. No matter how much one would like to, his words sank into the soul of the beauty. The reason the beauty came to the meeting of officials was partly because she wanted to prevent her marriage. In fact, Melody was simply jealous of those who were sitting there because she also wanted to be present and stand out from the rest. She wants to work and make decisions for Corbella. The lady envies her brothers who are always allowed to do everything. From the very beginning, the beauty did not want to live hiding somewhere in the shadows, where there was no place for her. She did not want to watch from the side. Now Corbella understands that she wants to walk down a beautiful path with her shoulders back. This is important to her. It is not clear why the heroine decided that she needed to get married so badly. It was definitely stupid. The mind cannot go beyond the experience of man. Even those little things that the beauty loved, no matter whether they were imposed by will or not, it is something completely different. Steel-like shackles locked the mind. The heroine's thoughts became as limited as these barriers. The princess stands at the door in a red dress, looking into the depths of her small palace. A maid sits on the sofa. The atmosphere is tense. Her words reflect the limitations of not only space, but also her life, comparing it to the boundaries of the palace. The hero holds the sword smiling slightly. He sharpens it to please his girlfriend. The princess stands by the window, lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the distance, her maid listening attentively behind her. She realizes how selfish she was in meeting Nigel and shares her thoughts, emphasizing the change in her worldview. There was no way I could learn fencing from the guy. There was no way I could get close to him and behave the way the girl did. The beauty remembers how it would have been better if she had never taken that cookie, looking down her heart, filling with regret. A feeling of anxiety reflected on her face. She thinks about how differently her fate would have turned out if she had not taken that step. The main character lowered her head, her face full of doubts. The beauty wonders if it makes a difference, whether she herself wants to marry him, or whether it was Nigel's order. These thoughts make her think about her freedom and desires that may not belong to her. Claire, holding the princess's hand, looks into her eyes with excitement. She understands her doubts and tries to calm her down, reminding her that indecision arises from worrying about the guy. The maid looks at her mistress with a soft, sympathetic expression. She asks a question that directly concerns her feelings for Vadel. The mistress realizes that her answer would be cold if she did not love him, and sadly admits that she could never marry another. Melody thinks about her future. She realizes that if Kaiser marries her, he will be involved in a power struggle. This seems too selfish a decision to her. Claire consoles the girl gently, touching her head. Her words sound encouraging. Even if the beauty is selfish, this will not change her devotion and support. With a gentle smile, the beauty looks at the girl, reminding her that not everything is so indifferent. She says that Melody better eat well and be happy when she becomes a wife. The dark room is silent. Only the pale light of the moon illuminates the space. The man's voice is determined, demanding to know how long this will last, and demanding an explanation for the future of the empire. His voice vibrating with rage and tension, for he thirsts for the truth that has been hidden for so long. Gerald, standing at the table, clenches her palms in anger, which is even stronger, and she is indignant that she was not told the truth about Jabril. The woman recalls with bitterness in her voice that at her age a girl should have been enjoying the simple joys of life, eating warm porridge and basking in the sun, and not experiencing such difficulties. Claire says with alarm that she will never be able to reveal that secret. She moves away from the table, and the man angrily throws back at her. Just try to blurt something out. At some point, Melody became everything to the girl. Her happy face pops up before her eyes when she hugged a bouquet of flowers, smiling like a little child full of happiness. The duo became the girl's protectors. Their duty was to protect her from the threat from the Abub clan. The palace, reminiscent of a prison, became the most reliable refuge for her, taking on the role of a simple servant. She was able to stay here, hiding from external threats. Claire's gaze, full of thoughtfulness and bitterness, reflects her anxiety. She realizes that her time spent away from the mountains is coming to an end. She has stayed here too long. Next to the hero, dressed in a dress uniform, the girl clings to him as if looking for support. An internal question worries her. Will he be able to support her in difficult moments? The maid, standing straight, looks ahead, expressing her sincere desire that her mistress live, as she wishes. The question about Sir Weddell makes her anxious. The heroine, with a soft expression, advises her mistress not to keep everything to herself. She suggests the best way is to ask him personally to find answers to her doubts. It's always worth being as honest as possible. She asks to tell about the situation and why she wants to marry the man of her choice. When she looked at his back, she realized that she had made the decision to marry him a long time ago. At some point, the colors around her began to change, as if reflecting her thoughts. The beauty slowly felt the color leaving her fingertips. Everything seemed so natural that she didn't even notice how everything around her had changed completely. She smiled and replied with a slight chuckle that of course she knew where the pen and ink were, but despite her confidence, she had not sat down at the table to write for a long time. The Duchess, lost in her thoughts, looks at the antique clock, wondering whether to make an appointment, while the prince worries that someone is late. The man asks with a serious expression, "Is your body okay?" His concern clearly visible in his tired gaze, as if he is having a hard time hiding his worries. The young woman, with a serious look, thanks her interlocutor, mentioning that without his help, everything could have gone wrong. A tense silence reigns in the room, only for a few seconds. The man was preparing a response in confusion, but upon seeing her, his face instantly became serious, and his mind seemed to become clouded. The prepared speech was lost in the confusion of feelings. They are sitting at the table, but he avoids her gaze as if not daring to raise his eyes. She is surprised, not understanding what is happening, trying to grasp the reason for his embarrassment. The woman looks away thoughtfully, thinking about the old conversation with Nigel, her face expressing inner tension, as if those thoughts were tormenting her soul again. The heroine sitting opposite the man listened attentively to his answer. Trying to understand what was hidden behind his words, she discreetly asked whether the crown prince had put pressure on him. Melody looked away with a sad smile, remembering the morning visit. She quietly said that now he also knows about the flow, adding that her brother came to her this morning. Melody looked ahead in surprise and confusion. The words about her being asked to fulfill the duty of the imperial family still ringing in her ears. This choice came as a surprise to her. The man looked ahead with a frown, realizing the whole truth. It was now clear that the princess did everything to protect the crown prince, despite all the difficulties. The beauty sat at the table thoughtfully, looking at her cup of tea. She said that marriage with her would bring difficulties. Her usually easy smile disappeared, reflecting an internal struggle. The girl holds a cup of tea. Her gaze is serious when she talks about the possible danger to the Duke's family. She directly asks some question. The Duke, barely holding back his emotions, lowered his gaze. His face expressed sadness and confusion. The Duchess noticed this, and for the first time saw such feelings on his face, which surprised her. The blonde looked away in embarrassment. His thoughts were confused. He wanted to say something else, but he couldn't find the right words. His hand clenched into a fist from worry. The young man realized with bitterness that his inability to choose the right words at such an important moment turned out to be an insurmountable obstacle for him. He sighed heavily, regretting his indecision. The guy sat in the chair, his head down, his blonde hair falling slightly on his forehead. Holding back a sigh, he said that it was not a problem for him, hiding the internal tension. Sir Vidal can't bring himself to look her in the eye. The words he speaks are too heavy. He's afraid of how she will react, feeling fear inside. In the image, the character is apparently in a state of inner turmoil. The man holds back his voice so as not to waver, and is about to say important words that require complete sincerity. He says the key phrase, "Marry me." The heroine stands in surprise, her face expressing mixed emotions, thoughts whirling through her head. She did not expect that the Sir would seriously ask for her hand. Vidal, blushing and clearly tormented by internal experiences, almost leaves even redder. He no longer has the strength to wait, as if his feelings hidden for so long have finally broken through, destroying the last barriers. The princess looked at her in bewilderment, stunned by his words. He said that he didn't care, having proposed marriage. He didn't even say goodbye, as if he couldn't decide on more. He ran away. The girl can't understand if she was really proposed to. And what just happened? The man ran away too quickly. Ash met the blonde guy at the entrance. It seems they both had some kind of appointment with the princess. It's weird. The man personally brought His Majesty a letter. With a proposal, he was definitely not mistaken when he saw the fire in those very eyes. The name of the greatest swordsman is useless when you don't know what to say. The blonde wants to stop Ash, but he couldn't. The glory of the family, and all the money in the world, are not worth a single flower in the bouquet of my lady's groom. He came empty-handed and expected a good answer. It was stupid. Although Ash heard unkind words about the princess, he did not care. She was called the very madness. Everything was the same until the hero had a chance to see the beauty in person. It was a deep impression. The person looked like a ray of sunshine. Her curly hair lay beautifully on her shoulders. A year later, she was seen at a meeting of officials. The heroine did not give in to the prince smiling. She noticed that she was greeted first. It was even nice. Confident demeanor and beautiful eyes full of determination, as if they wanted not to miss a word. There was obvious bewilderment on her face, and it seemed like she had heard some kind of absurdity. This was a little different. An interesting personality. When the lady laughed, all eyes focused on her. The man began to wait for the girl to come to the meetings, being struck by her behavior and appearance. The young man was never pessimistic about his situation. He was sure that it did not matter. It was advantageous for His Highness to have Kaiser as a son-in-law, but the boy wanted to do everything in his power to change. The man holds out the hydrangeas. They were beautiful, so he decided to bring them to the one he really likes. In her hands, there is also a beautiful box with earrings. It seems that they will suit the lady's eyes. Sitting down on the offered chair, the young man begins his story of how he saw the woman 2 years ago. The young man had been watching the lady of his heart all these years, and after the meeting, he hoped that she would come again. She doesn't seem to realize how relieved she felt when the heroine wasn't sent to Eisen as the empress. Smiling, the man asks to accept the proposal of marriage. He really speaks sincerely. The redhead feels the sincerity that is striking, but can't say anything. Such a polite and passionate proposal is different. Earlier, the girl showed how she acts against her will. There was no need to be so frivolous. There is nothing more to say. The heroine does not know how to explain the situation. Nothing works. The brunette didn't really talk to the princess, but over the course of 2 years, he learned to study her facial expressions, each one different. The heart seemed to stop. There were too many emotions in the look. It was already clear that the lady was going to marry Kaiser. One-sided feelings are like a balloon. Before the hero realized it, the balloon had expanded so much that now it was scary to puncture it. Asks her not to feel burdened, but really wants her to feel that way all the time. For her, Ash was just a stranger. She didn't even notice his efforts, and in general, what was behind the shell. Tagiram will do everything for the princess's happiness, and therefore asks her to think again about the proposal. A lot of time passed, but the man still did not leave the room. It seems that he is no longer up to discussion. I can't believe that Melody was touched by the flowers, and is now having a long conversation about how sweet it all is. The guy returned home with his head down. Luxello does not believe that he went to propose, but nothing ended as expected. The woman asks what happened. It is still not clear how it happened that he walked around empty-handed. Starting to shake the young man immediately after hearing this, the mother gets angry. It was impossible to run away without an answer. Almost crying. First of all, the son should rest. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He is the same as his father. Sending the young man to the room, the girl asks that Princess Melody be asked for a meeting. Since this happened, everything will have to be fixed. The blonde also asks to pack the cookies in a beautiful box. As soon as I arrived at the palace, Empress Roche asked for a meeting, and it was already clear what the conversation would be about. The lady seems angry. The servants haven't even served tea. The brunette asks if the Duchess wants to tell her something. Lowering her eyes, the girl asks for forgiveness for not being able to fulfill the request, even if she wanted to. I want to scream that Daisy is suffering, but on the contrary, she eats 5 times a day, as if that is all she thinks about. The girl broke down. She was always obedient, but now after what happened, she lost her way and behaved inappropriately. If Luxello had guided her son correctly, nothing would have happened, but nothing was done. Sir Vidal dared to reject a great man. It is unforgivable. As Kaiser's mother, the Duchess, believes that his happiness is the most important thing, and she will support any choice, which is what she did. Roche screams. It seems the girl doesn't understand who she's talking to. That's why she's behaving so strangely. This doesn't suit her. There is nothing more to talk about. Getting up from her seat, the heroine is going to leave. She does not want to stay for a second. The princess's palace looks modest. The maids look happy, and the living room is constantly looked after. The lady introduces herself as Kaiser's mother, and smiles when she and the princess finally meet. After the heroine learned about what happened, she wasn't even surprised, because Hennist didn't even bring her a flower. That day, it was not clear what was going on at all. I had to ask the maids. One can only hope that this time everything was different. Melody laughs now. It's clear why her son fell in love with her. A smile can melt anyone's heart. When a blonde wants something, it is best to be clear what exactly he wants. If he misses out on his future wife, it will be terrible. The mother should not let the boy drown in his regrets, which seem to never end. He is a man who does not devote time to everything at once, but rather obsessively invests his attention in what truly interests him. Even though the guy lacks affection, he will be faithful only to his wife, and will also think only about her. The Duchess sincerely asks him to reconsider his views and think about marrying her son. Lowering her head, the beauty asks if the prince put pressure on her. It seems too much has happened. She no longer believes it. His Highness needs the power of the Vadel family. If the heroine marries Kaiser, it could bring trouble. The girl had already thought about this, and something similar had come up in a recent conversation with the Empress. It may seem rude, but even Emperor Urbash cannot be rash with their family. You can take the word of the hostess of the house. Kaiser proposed of his own free will. There is nothing to worry about. No one would force a guy to do anything if he has no place in the princess's heart. No big deal. Rod Weddle would have had to deal with what happened anyway, and it wasn't Corbella's fault. Caesar's mother is an elegant and sweet woman. It seemed that the man was not so similar to her. But no, it is true. Next, the lady asks about the cookies. The box turned out to be too big, because the servants put a whole mountain of them in. The girl loves sweets. The groom always grumbles that she can't leave the palace, so he went to the place of purchase on his own. The blonde heard that her son even made a special sword. He thinks that everyone likes the same thing as him. Studying with a guy is a pleasure. The lady is sincerely glad that she was given such a gift and does not think that it was something bad. Such an ideal couple can really exist, but it is extremely difficult to believe in it. It is not even clear what to think about it. The heroine almost fainted when she heard about her son's relationship, but she seems happy with everything. The daughter-in-law seems like a dream. She is bright, strong, and also cheerful. Kaiser chose the ideal person. Remaining calm on the outside and smiling, the woman promises that she will hit the guy if he suddenly lets such a person go. The hero still blames himself because he went without a gift. The offer was a good one, and empty-handed he has no chance. I want to come up with something that my future wife will, like maybe there is something that will cause the same reaction as last time. The beauty loves freedom horse riding, and it seems swords too. After starting training, she showed a different side of herself. Quite recently, the beauty began to seriously study fencing. You can choose something suitable for her. The lady went into the garden, an amazing situation. Boring and monotonous days changed in just a couple of months. If Mom were there, everything would be completely different. The woman always wanted to have more chances to be together. The girl has grown so much that their eyes would be at the same level. This thought makes the soul warm, but at the same time sad. Claire comes up from behind. The lady has grown too tall. Now the chair she is sitting on seems too small. Jibril could laugh so loudly that it could be heard all the way to the southern gates. She would certainly show true joy. The redhead has no idea what to do. She really wants to marry Kaiser, but her head is a mess. Even if this is a real possibility, the heroine is no longer sure of anything. She was too frivolous about marriage. Accepting someone else's feelings never seemed so difficult. Claire asks how Melody feels. If Kaiser's soul had been reborn as a puppy, his emotions would have been easier to recognize. It wouldn't have been so unrealistic. Now it's about Ash. His offer was sweet, but the best idea is to just politely refuse him so as not to ruin anything. The look and expression on the man's face showed that this was not a joke. He was seriously in love. Now the girl is going to leave. She was going to propose to Kaiser. He came empty-handed, and the lady will buy a gift. The Duchess said that her son took after his father, and she herself must have had a hard time with such a groom. The girl gets up to stretch. She still thinks that going to get a gift at such a time is a good idea that will be fulfilled. Since the man is not in the palace, the guards will be less vigilant. The blue-eyed one will return very soon. Before you run away, all that's left to do is draw a map of the store where your uncle trades. It will be a great help. The Duke arrived at the store to buy a sword. This time, he chooses not for himself, but as a gift. We need to pick out a little thing for a person who is shoulder-height blonde, someone who is still studying. At the same place, a cloaked figure enters and is immediately greeted, hearing that she needs a gift for a man a head taller. The man is well trained, but the consultant asks what kind of swords he usually uses. If a beauty doesn't know anything, she can just pick it up and replace it with a better one at any time. All the weapons look great. This is the best gun shop in the capital. You don't have to worry about the quality. The redhead noticed Sir Kaiser standing not far from her. The blonde is a regular customer. The consultant offers to show what he usually buys. Blue-eyed cannot help but be interested in the sword that is used by the master of His Majesty's Guard himself. The handle of the first copy is made of high-quality leather, so it fits comfortably in the hand. It was so popular that a new version was launched. The item is made to order only in accordance with the build and strength of the person who will use it. The light from the blade is completely different. If a lady wants to order, she will have to provide the recipient's parameters. The girl wants to ask the swordmaster for help. She even plans to talk to him herself and not try to avoid it. We are talking about the leader of the mercenary guild. She needs a sword for him. It is a gift from Jibril's daughter. He himself will understand who we are talking about. While the man was thinking about what little thing to take for the princess, someone touched him on the shoulder to get his attention. A person gives a gift to an important character who looks like a master. She wants to accept help with taking measurements. The girl will give a weapon to the man she loves so much. The blonde fell silent, his expression changing as it became clear that perhaps that character was Ash Tagarum. The young man remains cool and takes the sword in his hands to show a masterclass helping to select everything for him. The man's look is exactly the same. He is clearly angry that the beauty ran away. She bows down thanking for her help. The Duke couldn't recognize the princess. He is proud of what he does, so such a reaction is understandable. The blue-eyed one doesn't know if she's forbidden to go beyond the wall. Nothing is clear, the look was too angry. The seller thanks the young man for responding to the request he takes. Both swords, there is no need to make a new one for him. The young man wants to cherish hopes. Instead of any famous blade, he would like to receive one from Princess Melody. Swords are not flowers. You can't just go out and buy them. The Duke made the mistake of showing himself to be stupid again. The man didn't say anything, but it was clear that he was angry, and the girl couldn't do anything. The groom catches up with the figure. She apologizes for running away like that. There is nothing more to say. The hero should not know in advance about the sword with which the proposal will be made. Grabbing the lady's hand so as not to let go, he quietly asked if there was a gift for Ash, who will become her husband. He wanted the offer to be better, but the blonde can't help himself again, and so he makes mistakes. The guy falls to his knees and gently kisses the lady's hand, looking straight into her eyes, trying to convey his emotions. I don't care what happens next. I'll have to sacrifice myself because it's insignificant compared to Melody. Kaiser asks to marry him no matter how much Corbella wanted to make a surprise. There was no choice, the sword she bought was for her husband. It's funny that the culprit doesn't know he looks at you with a look full of love. It's even illegal to look and smile like that. The girl wants to kiss the young man, but she gets up. She has enough of what happened, so it's better not to go together. Kissing Milady's hand was unnecessary, but the Duke could not think about manners. The words sank into his very heart. It is obvious that the girl agrees to the marriage. Her heart is about to jump out of her chest, and every cell seems to sing songs. Arriving at the castle, the red-haired girl falls on the bed and irritably waves her arms and legs. Now she can't look the guy in the eyes. A letter arrived from Duke Bovin. The emperor reads it and immediately orders Kaiser to be summoned to the palace. The blonde is sent to Vian because it looks like some battles are breaking out there. Again, troops, and an investigation should be there. Beyond the Abub Mountains on the border with Orson, there are 3 fortresses which are marked on the map. Vian, Itihas, and Irhen are their names. All of them are under the control of the Bovine family and represent a line of defense against the enemy country. Recently, there have been rumors that there have been many large and small clashes in Viana. The captain is limited in the number of warriors. Urbash will take care of everything and asks to simply go to that place. Kaiser will not fall under Bovin's pressure and will be able to objectively assess the situation. The knight promises that he will certainly set out on his journey. Robel will go too, as well as 10 other close warriors. They say that ghosts have been seen in those places, those who can be called neither alive nor dead. Their physical capabilities are superior to humans, and they are known for their excessive hostility. The clever but devious King Orsina eventually sacrificed his daughter and is now trying to take over Xerox. Spies were often seen on the borders, and the peace that had lasted for many years in the empire turned into real poison. When famine began in the last century, the most expensive part of the budget, defense, was cut. The previous king introduced a system of permits, limiting the number of personal troops of nobles. Currently, only the military power of the imperial family is engaged in protecting the borders. Changes have been made. Valhalla was all for it. If military power were added to financial might, superiority over the Bovin family could be achieved. On the other hand, the best soldiers are still with the royal family. If the financiers expand their military influence, the balance of power will be upset. The captain remembers how often they saw the emperor, and that he was hearing something like this perhaps for the first time in all that time. The border mission will take 3 weeks. during which time they will have time to make a sword for Melody, which she will receive as a gift. Roble gathered all the knights, no matter how much he whined. They were ready to go to Vian in full force. It is necessary to understand the state of the horizon. The detachment will rest in villages so as not to expose itself to unnecessary danger. Urbash believes that what happened was unexpected. Empress Matilda and Nigel did not push Melody to get married. Both sides need a brother, so there is no need to put it off. It is better to take everything under personal control. The baby still wants to marry Kaiser. It seems her mind hasn't changed. Ash needs to be politely refused. Blue-Eyed hears about an upcoming wedding right after the New Year sounds like a good choice. The intervals between attacks are getting shorter. If everyone guesses that the man is sick, it will be bad. He tries not to attend meetings. Better hurry to see Melody in her wedding dress. The crown is almost ready. The altar is also ready. Everything is going faster than the girl thought. The wedding next month makes her wonder if her father is okay. One answer is simple. Once they have decided there is no point in delaying, in any case, the girl of course has nothing against it. Nodding, Urbish says that Caesar left for Vian yesterday. This news also seems unexpected. The guy received the emperor's order and left after midnight. Now he should be somewhere at the parking lot in the middle of the road. Again there was trouble with Orson. There was news that forced us to send scouts to check. Sooner or later, problems will arise. Corbella decisively asks how she can help the Empire with her flow. Melody is like a one-beat song. It's easier to live easily, just like a piece of music. The value was not only in getting married, but it seemed that Claire and Gerald had not yet said what kind of person Jabril was. The old man knows about his uncle, and even knows that his daughter steals cookies from him, which even the Emperor likes. There is nothing to say, only emotions remain. The father knows much more than the lady could have imagined. To begin with, the hero is going to answer the question without rushing anywhere and without leaving any explanations. If a noblewoman really wants to help the kingdom, she can become a knight. There have never been any princess knights in history, so the heroine can easily claim the first title. It's strange that the brunette makes such a proposal. He himself isn't entirely sure of what he said. Those who know the warrior with blue eyes will find this surprising. It may be late, but it's time to learn something about the origins of those who came before Melody. It is possible that the flow as well as physical abilities all came from the mother who was strong. Hidden within this are all the answers. What is the relationship between the Empire and the Abub clan, and why the lady was named Melody? Even if after hearing this, Milady wants to become a knight of the country, her father will definitely help her. It was announced that the New Year's festival was to take place in 5 days, an event that affects all residents. Because the emperor's family was more involved, there were more changes in the daily lives of the subjects. Nobles were required to attend the event, and Nigel and Melody were required by law to prepare for exactly a week. The redhead is angry. She is already tired of all the rules that are set and the responsibilities that are placed on her. Claire conveyed that now the heroine is obliged to eat only twice a day, during which times she will probably overeat. His Highness the Heir asked to meet his sister. He said it was related to the practice of the ceremony. Future Whittle practiced before and after the trip to the gorge, and it seems to be enough. In any case, the little girl was riding as she wanted, so there was no point in it. They had made a mistake there. The redhead just needs to take and move the crown, and each ritual has its own meaning. Arriving at the castle, the girl cannot help but be surprised. Her brother does not have a luxurious palace, but rather a modest and practical one. There is a young man standing near the window in the main hall smiling. Corbella arrived just in time, not late. The servant immediately goes to the kitchen to serve a cold drink, or rather iced tea, which the guy drank a few days ago. The hero did not put any pressure on the marriage. What was coming at the New Year's festival would happen to them for the first time they needed to practice. There are some rules, but it seems that no one is able to remember all the little details because there are too many of them. The beauty had already seen, but before her was a path that had to be taken, and it was much longer than the room the couple had entered. The golden wreath lies in a box. When the brunette reaches the end of the hall, the girl should simply hand over the thing, stopping nearby. While lifting the chest, the beauty tries to follow all the orders, keeps her chin up, and makes her steps a little shorter. The priest thought that he would have to practice a lot, but he worried in vain. The lady grasped everything on the fly. The redhead can control her body quite well, and she is really proud of it. Iced tea can only be tried in the spring. I want the girl to try it in her palace, but first wait a little. A simple taste test won't hurt. It's better to be understanding about it if you really want it. Dropping the hairs into the cup, the blue-eyed one blinks with interest. Out of the three, only one has changed color. One of the servants is kneeling, swearing that he knows nothing, and Lucas is told to check everyone who came and went. Even if Deimos knows that he can't kill his brother in such a stupid way, he still tries tirelessly. The brunette asks not to spread rumors that you can't even have a cup of tea in the palace of the future emperor. All three strips should pass the test. But for now, the tea smells of something musty, clearly unpleasant. Being a crown prince isn't much fun. It's tiring to be on guard all the time. Smiling, the hero asks, "Not to look like that." The red-haired girl didn't mean anything, but simply asked if the hero eats at all. Nigel doesn't sit back and pretend his brother's antics don't exist either. Now all that remains is to ask forgiveness for seeing him off empty-handed, but that's not a problem. Silence reigned in the room as soon as the door closed. The man was tired of suspecting someone every time and living on the edge of a knife. From some point on, he could no longer leave anyone near him. It was unclear who to get rid of this time. After the last assassination attempt, there were purges of the palace servants who could have been involved in the incident. The one who has never been replaced stands nearby. Moderato is asked when exactly he came to this castle. The next day, the emperor called Wedel's parents to plan the wedding, and the duke suggested holding the ceremony earlier. Just after Kaiser's return from Vienna, the plan will be carried out, which is a fairly short period of time. Before officially announcing her future engagement, the lady faces the task of refusing Ashtagaramu. The ability to sensitively recognize every detail of others' faces allowed the man to rise in the political world. The hero knew that refusal was only a matter of time. They handed him a return gift closed in a box. For some reason, it's hard to look into someone's eyes when something like this happens. And inside was the assistant finance minister's favorite pen. "I would like to avoid awkwardness and everything that is happening, too." He thanks for the invitation. The redhead tries to find the right words, but she doesn't have to say anything. Everything has already become clear. Melody couldn't even dream that she would receive such a sweet offer. She even thought that it was undeserved. It is not clear what the difference is between the man and Kaiser, but it seems that not a single unnecessary detail was overlooked. After shaking the princess's hand, the guy asks that next time they pretend to know each other. That day, when Ash saw Corbella, there should have been at least a light greeting exchanged. Everything would have been different. It seems that only the emperor is getting old. Claire is constantly in the palace. She can often be seen, but Gerald has not visited for 10 years. If only Jibril were alive, she would be just as young. She was a wonderful, strong person. This was the beginning of the tragedy between the Abab clan and the empire itself. Unfortunately, time cannot be turned back, and nothing can be fixed. Melody announced her desire to become a knight, or rather to help Corbella with her flow, which she will direct to what is important. It would be better not to know the truth until the very end, but it would be better to tell her so that the child can make a choice. Nothing will change if Gerald or anyone else tells the information is reality. Blue-Eyed saw the heir of the Vedel family, who approaches the girl. If she is unhappy with him, the uncle will sort it out. Claire shakes her head. That won't happen, but the responsibility falls on her as the baby's godmother. The Trinity are neither enemies nor allies. The reason they gathered is Melody, who they are protecting. All the threads lead to Jibril. "It's not hard for my sister. She has enough strength to finish what she started. The promise was already made anyway." Even though the two live in the same country, and even the same city, it's sad that it's difficult for them to look each other in the eyes. All Gerald hopes for is that he will no longer be shunned simply because of his resemblance to Miss Jibril. Telling Melody the truth will be equally difficult for everyone, but it will have to be done anyway. Uncle just came to the palace, even though it seemed like it was forbidden. He had an important matter. The red-haired man believes in the beauty and supports all decisions, even heard news about the wedding. The maid herself enters the conversation, wanting to talk not as a subordinate, but as her mother's friend. They began to say that the beauty wanted to help the empire with the stream. It would not harm the Abab clan, but there was something else. There is no time left to delay, and the story needs to be told. A man's sister deserves a separate story and deserves to be known by everyone. "It was night," the woman said in a commanding tone. that she and Erida would go through the main entrance, and Gerald and Stein would take care of the back ones. Elna will go too, but Balt and Mio will be behind her to protect her from the guards' attacks. Today, everyone will be elbow-deep in blood. That was perfectly clear. There will be even more sins. There are two people sitting in a cage, while guards mock them. As is known, clan members are stronger, but not in this case. The beauty, strength, and longevity of men and women were certainly not acquired. Just like that, not undeservedly. The guy screams, but the knights laugh, because no one will do anything to them. Anyway, that's true. You can't speak so frivolously, the noble Urbash. The future king is also imprisoned in this place. Power has led to a precipice where death awaits. If you do not become an emperor, all that remains is to die. I want to get out alive and make sure that revenge is carried out, that a miracle happens. It was a stranger who broke in. It seemed like only one woman had attacked, but no, a whole squad appeared behind them, fully armed. Urbash can't take his eyes off the blonde. Using overwhelming force, she defeats opponents with one blow. Two of them were released from the dungeon. Their condition was checked, and whether they would be able to go outside. Ordered to group together, the heroine goes outside, but hears someone's voice begging for help to get out. The prince wants to leave the castle. They will help him, but then he will again be on his own, as it was before. New troops are approaching. The retreat route is not clear again. Before it gets noisy, we will have to run away as quickly as possible. Erida carries Elena on his back, while a girl nearby talks about how incredible his strength is. The enemy sent reinforcements quickly enough. They have bows and arrows. This won't happen just like that. It's time to attack. Urbash wonders if they are human, because their physical strength is too great. The hero leans against the wall, breathing heavily. He thinks that for the first time, he climbed up with his bare hands. The four discuss the situation. Blau suggests jumping in the background is a camp of the castle soldiers. They won't just leave. The group prepares to jump. The leader orders Gerald to jump first. The rest wait. Urbash watches in shock as strangers jump from a high wall with people on their backs. The man anxiously asks for a name, then offers to come to the palace if strength is needed. The girl asks defiantly how he dares to pronounce Corbil's name and offer his help. Jibril furiously reminds of the country's atrocities, and the future emperor promises to repay if he is saved. The beauty speaks sadly about the unbreakable shackles, and the hero claims that she cannot cope alone. She needs assistance. Urbash. This is the name of the prince who fought for the throne. Jibril notices the approach of soldiers. He must run as quickly as possible. The heroine offers to pull him outside the castle, warning that the landing will be hard. He himself asked for this, so he gets what he wanted. Of course, one cannot help but recall the promise given, which must be kept, and for which it will be necessary to ascend to the throne. Mayo wonders why the commander dragged that man, and she replies that it would be stupid to leave him once they pulled him out. The hero reflects on a meeting in the future. His thoughts are directed to the miracle that he is waiting for. This is that very beauty. Whether it was demons or something else, the Abub Mountain clan has been called by different names throughout history. The clan was divided into 3 groups, one of which was the blue-eyed who possessed physical strength the strongest. The green-eyed had the gift of healing through the flow, which could help others. This was different. All the yellow-eyed ones were the most numerous. Sometimes children with the gift of foresight were born among them. People with the gift of foresight became priests, received an oracle, and saw the near future. The world of the yellow-eyed people clan was destroyed after they showed kindness to outsiders. The village was destroyed. The inhabitants were captured, and against the superior enemy forces, only the prisoners survived. They were kept at the foot of the mountain. Years after saving Aegis and Blau, the girl warns in tears that taboos should not be broken. Jibril is hurt again. The lying blonde asks for praise for her achievements, and with a smile reminds that she saved 10 people. Claire consoles her friend, asking her to stop crying. The next day, she came to listen to the oracle's prediction. The fortune teller watches her interlocutor with concern, noticing how her face still remains pale. The beauty smiles confidently, promising not to interfere if the consequences are bad. The emperor reminisces about the events again, looking at the moon through the window on the night of the full moon. Everything was exactly the same that day. The look becomes even sadder. The guy thinks about the past, filled with longing. He remembers Jibril's eyes. The hero admits that he is very worried. He is waiting for the meeting, and then someone jumps onto the balcony, making him freeze. The oracle predicted that the emperor's boyfriend has what the girl is looking for. She must put everything on the line to protect Abov. They will try together to make peace between the clan and the empire. One day, everything will end. The blonde doesn't understand what the emperor could want from Jibril. She hopes it's something simple. Soon after the hero kept his promise, the law prohibiting slavery for citizens of the empire was changed. Thanks to the operation to rescue the clan members, the situation became a little easier. On that path, Jibril still faces death, but she is not afraid. She doesn't care at all. It is destined to happen. If peace can be made at the cost of the beauty's life, she agrees to this deal without further ado. Urbash cannot believe that what is in front of him is not an illusion descending. She asks what he needs. If a woman gives the emperor what he wants, he will definitely fulfill the request. They must have a deal. The hero will make sure that the clan has peace and tranquility in return. The brunette asks for everything she has. Urbash became emperor only for the sake of this man. He wants to get her all her essence. Jibril became the emperor's wife, but Urbash already had two empresses, Bowen and Valhalla.